doing pretty well. Yeah, everybody's recovering, so.
What is this crap?
Yeah.
Now I'm getting this every time I try to open something on this Google bullshit.
To take off our masks and make sure we speak into the mic because she's having a hard time. Hi, Mike.
Hey Ruth, how are you?
Mr. Self.
Missy asked if you speak to make sure to take off your mask and speak into the mic. You have not heard. Hey guys, did you hear that? Speak into your mic, no mask.
I was trying to open that document she sent, and I'm getting this from Google. Okay, here it's a. Is this your device or is this?
Yep.
Yeah, it's my device. Oh, do we need? Where's the? We got laptops in here.
I can get you one.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Well, why is this locking me out all of a sudden? That must be a threat.
All right. Is everybody ready? All right, good evening. Welcome to the special session of the Manchester Community School Board. I would invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and roll call. Mr. Shaw?
Here?
Mr. Esposette?
Here.
Mr. Hensley?
Here.
Mr. Turflinger?
Present.
Mr. Bedke?
Here.
Mr. Flack? Here. And I, Ruth Ayers, am present. The only emergency additions or deletions is we're switching the order of the discussion information for tonight. So we're going to begin with the MCS strategic plan.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are here to participate in that. This discussion for our strategic plan. It's been a long process. I'm going to have Mr. Self put up there on the overhead, the strategic planning process. And because I'm going to give you a brief history lesson of where we have been and a little bit about where we are going before we start any presentations this evening. First of all, in July of 2019, Dr. Adamson joined or led the board in a discussion about belief statements, what we believed in as a board and a superintendent. Had some good discussions there. This next step in the process was in August of 2019, where the board, the superintendent, and the cabinet members all sat down to develop the mission and vision and commitment statements. Mr. Self, can you show that slide? And what we see there is dream, grow, achieve together was our mission, and our vision was Manchester Community Schools provides diverse opportunities for all students in a safe and creative learning environment. We also developed 6 commitment statements: maximizing resources to build a robust curriculum, hiring and developing the best staff and create a retainable environment, working with the community to promote opportunities for partnerships, providing well-maintained and safe facilities that support student success, and demonstrating financial discipline while pursuing creative and fiscally responsible ways to sustain the mission and vision. And the last one is providing a multitude of extracurricular offerings to allow students to foster their interests. So after the mission and vision and commitment statements were created, we had an evening in September where we sat down with the board, we invited the public, we also had the cabinet members there, and we developed what we call a profile of a graduate. Where do we want our graduates to be when they leave us? What attributes do we want them to possess? So Mr. Self, you can kind of turn to there you go. The MCS attributes of our graduates. So there were 6 of them chosen, which is literate, communicator, collaborator, problem solver, passionate learner, and we want them to persevere when they walk out our doors. So the board and the superintendent, like I said, and the cabinet members were all a part of that opportunity to decide that. We've also defined them, and that's what you see up there on the screen right now. When we began this process for the strategic plan, we wanted to start with backwards planning. As many of you know, educators like to start backwards where we know where the end results are, where we want to end up, and then we move forward from there and we plan on how to get there. So where we are right now tonight is at the recommendation stage. So we'll go back up to the strategic planning process, Mr. Self. Go back there. So right now we're at September 2020. COVID did a number on us and we were not able to present until this evening. But we are resilient. We're coming back and we're coming back strong. So tonight you will hear presentations from each of our schools, their recommendations based on research, visiting other schools, all that they did to prepare for this. They involved community people, students, staff members, and parents, and got some input on that to lead us to where we are this evening and their recommendations. We will be, after tonight, going forward with goals. We're hoping to do that in October. And in between the recommendations this evening and the October goals that will be set, there will be 2 more sessions where I will be able to get some public input as well. And then we will develop the plan in October, hopefully by the end of October, and then present the plan and the timelines in the November range. So, with that being said, I'm going to review just a little bit of where we're going tonight with the presentations. So, can you pull up the special session procedures, Mr. Self? Do you have that document? Okay, well, I'll start reviewing it and see if he can find it. If not, I will send it to him. All right, well, this evening when the presentations are taking place, as I said, each school will be presenting, and we have asked them to come up with exemplars for each one of the attributes, what their instruction will look like, and how they will provide that for each attribute. And after creating the exemplars, which is our roadmap for our graduates, they are asked to dream big. What is it that we need to fulfill those attributes for our students? Each school will be presenting those recommendations for curriculum, I'll get it out, equipment, building, and safety security modifications based on their profile of the graduate. After they do their recommendations, we are asking for anybody involved in this process sitting in this room to share their ideas as well. We know that we couldn't cover everything, and we're going to have some things that you have ideas about that are probably not in the presentations. So you are going to have an opportunity to do some rotation on your sticky notes that you have on your desks. You could maybe start taking some notes as we go along. Each person is given 16 sticky notes. There are 4 posters, so you will have 4 per poster that you will be able to write your ideas on. They're not in this room, so you can't look around here. You're gonna save any ideas for maybe cost-saving measures or revenue building or any other ideas you want us to consider for. We have an other considerations posters that it's just blank, so it's for your ideas. And more than one comment can be made on a sticky note, so don't feel like you can just write one thing and that's it. If you need more, please feel free to pick some up from an empty desk or see Missy. She's sitting back there behind Mr. Self. We will divide up into 4 groups so that we can social distance, and we'll each send you to different posters. You may want to consider, like I said, to write your ideas down as the presenters are up there on the platform, because you may be able to think of those better at that time instead of waiting till you get to your poster. Please leave the dots on the desk when we do our first rotation, and we will talk about those at the end. Unfortunately for tonight, I'm not sure that we are going to have enough time to answer questions, so what I want to encourage you to do is a principal or the team members will be located at the posters, and you can have that opportunity to discuss with them, ask them questions, anything that you want at that time. For board members, what I'm asking you, I sent you an email with a link, and you can certainly talk to them there, but if there's something you don't get answered, please put it in those documents, and the principals will be able to go in there and answer anything that you have. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and start with our first presentation, which will be MES. So welcome, teachers and principal.
Good evening. I'm Amy Corris, the principal at Manchester Elementary School. Our plan began almost a year ago when we were told to dream big. We started off by visiting Eminence, Kentucky, which gave us the opportunity to expand our thinking. Teams of staff members, parents, community members, and students were gathered to offer input into all realms of MES, with suggestions of more ice cream in recess, obviously from the kids, to offering a high-quality program that meets the needs of all students and families within our community. We then started visiting other schools. We visited Warsaw and West Noble Elementary, where we spent the day in their dual language classrooms, along with looking at brand new schools down in Hamilton Southeastern. We wanted to create a school where students and staff are excited to come every day. We wanted a school where people talk about us in a good way. We wanted open classrooms, creative spaces so students can get excited and think and create and vision what something greater than they're used to. The strategic planning team has put in endless hours digging up research, poring over meeting notes to get this far. We are going to explain all elements, and we are very excited to share our vision with you.
Okay, my name is Amy Lambert, and I'm a first grade teacher at Manchester Elementary School, and I promise I did not write a dissertation like last time. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight. We are super excited to be here to present this, and I am just giving you a summary. I'm not going to read each slide to you. You can do that, but I want to give you like the roadmap, and then the rest of my team will be giving you the specifics and recommendations and plans that we have made and worked hard on. But I just want to give you an overview of, like Dr. Grimeau said, of the exemplars. My own children and several students throughout the building, some of my former students, first graders last year, were involved in this process as well. So it truly has been a collaborative effort between board members, community members, teachers, staff, and everyone else. So I just want to try to give you an overview of all of the slides. I do think that I wanted to say that I think most people would agree that what makes our school so great, and I talked a little bit about Dr. Lippy's building and when I spoke last time, is that this truly is a school where it's a pre-K to 12 effort, and I think that reflects in how successful we are as a corporation as well. And so I think that when we talk about these roadmaps and these different exemplars, that we really do have in mind, even though, like, I teach first grade, I'm considering the whole picture. So I just want to talk about, was that me? Okay, I just want to talk about literacy. We talked about being literate is our first, one of the first exemplars that we think that a graduate of Manchester Community Schools would be able to achieve. So what does it mean to be literate? Well, one of the great things about my building is that we have a program where we can meet every single kid to the best of our abilities at their instructional level, while also providing them grade level materials. So every single day, all 23 of my students get to meet in a grade level, and have material that is appropriate for them. They make connections all of the time because I have this wonderful literacy library where I'm able to pick out books and give them connections that they can make, and they're drawing connections from their own lives. And that helps them to become literate in the form of literacy that we all think of when we think of reading. But there's more, as we know, we live in an age where there's more to reading than just text in front of them. So we are one-to-one, and I have to admit, I've been teaching for 20 years, so I was nervous about going one-to-one because what does that mean? What does that look like? But we are, we have to be progressive, and so I love it. We are able to create, opportunities each day for kids to use their Chromebooks, whether that be through an app to support literacy, which is what we're talking about on this slide, through writing, through research projects, appropriate searches. My students can use Google Classroom, word process. They can publish their writing, use Google Slides. So all of that helps literacy. And as far as being in the century that we are in now, it's very different than versus when we used to just have strictly textbooks. So, but also even more so than that is we have how can they be financially literate, and things like that, because that is a really big thing. I know we've talked about that at some board meetings already, but I think it starts even at the elementary level, and even first grade, kindergarten can start with, we have a Squire store that we have, and my students are now, even at 6 years old, learning grade level appropriate ways to spend or save their money that they earn in my classroom, and all the way kindergarten, all the way through third grade and preschool. I don't know if Mrs. Daniels uses Squire Bucks, do you? Yes? Awesome. So, and then even we try to use that where they can spend, and then if they save, we pay them interest. And so, we're trying to start in the very basic ways that we can do that. And it's been really successful so far. And, how are we going to know if we achieve these things? There's all the formal ways of, standardized testing and all the assessments that we have to do, but also just, we do such a good job in our building of always knowing, I feel where kids are through benchmarking and, assessments, and of course then they have the standardized assessments as well. So there's many ways we could assess whether or not we're providing literate students. So if you could go to the next slide. Communicator. So communication in any form of any, area of life that we're in, communication, I feel makes or breaks you, and I think that our team, our staff, and our students would all agree with that. So we talked about providing our students the ability to have opportunities to communicate with each other, which, think pair share was easier certainly without masks, but I will tell you that it is still possible, very much so. With masks on, they are absolute champions at doing this, and they communicate with each other all the time, everything from the moment they come in the door. We talk about communicating verbally, non-verbally. Everything we do communicates. So we talk about what it means to ask for what we need. And so teaching students at a very young age, if you need something, to ask for it. And different ways that we can communicate through our journals, through presentations, orally, like I said, and nonverbal as well. Next one, we're going to talk about being a collaborator. This is one of my favorite things because there's many ways to collaborate. So, informal collaboration within your classrooms, but an MCS graduate, we want them to know how to be able to reach out and ask for help. But not just for help, but also just for projects in general. So for example, I love the fact that I get to work with Mrs. Screeton every single day. Because of my classroom population, we get 30 minutes a day together, and what we are able to do together in 30 minutes is super exciting. But also just the students collaborating with each other, kids helping kids. We're getting ready to Zoom we've Zoomed with authors before, we've Skyped with authors. My class is getting ready to Zoom with an NFL Super Bowl champion. They think that's fun. So just different opportunities, but students need to be able to graduate Manchester Community Schools knowing that they are part of a team and that it is not about themselves. Problem solver. We talked about what does it mean to be a problem solver, and I kind of talked about already a little bit about asking for what you need, like not just sitting there and being part of a problem, but being part of a solution. So we start talking about that in kindergarten and first grade, and go all the way through. So we give them multiple opportunities in literacy, in math, and how to use their resources. And we do STEM and project-based learning, which I know PBL was on the last slide in this one, so I kind of wanted to just tie it together. But you know, we do project-based learning throughout the year and different things in every single grade level. So I just did an Apple unit. And you know, I thought you don't have a lot of time for that, but if you take it and I was able to incorporate reading, writing, math, science, all into one unit. Teachers do that every single day. And that is real learning that's going to stick with them. And so we want students, I think, when they graduate MCS, MES, both, to be able to be part of a problem, or excuse me, part of a solution and not part of a problem. So teaching them to ask for what they need and to be part of the process. We go to passionate learner. This is probably my favorite. I think that, I'm hearing myself, so, okay. I think that a passionate learner begins with a passionate teacher. And I think that is where, because I think MCS in general is just full of passionate people. And I know that my kids can feel it when they walk in the classroom, and especially at a time like right now, but even if it wasn't COVID, they are really reliant upon our passion. And we may have to dig deep for it sometimes, but it is super important. And so, like, we're talking to them about College Go Week, Walk Into My Future, but I also think it's just important to note that teachers talk to students about being a passionate learner no matter what you do with your life. And that may be in college, that may be going to college, and I even tell my students, and I know my colleagues do too, that may be a trade school, that may be you learn a skill and you participate in your community. That may mean what are you doing in your life that you're passionate about. And because we're not all gifted at the same things. I know when I was talking about financial literacy earlier, I don't know who teaches business at the high school, but you do a phenomenal job, because my daughter knew about savings and checking accounts and a deductible, and she kind of knew more than I did. So as an adult, I wish I would have had that opportunity in high school that we're able to provide. So having guest learners in all the time, and right now that's obviously via Zoom, but we can still find ways to have guests in our classroom and still follow procedures. And I think the biggest thing about being a passionate learner is just wanting them to stay curious and about things and ask questions and make sure that they are wanting to come to school and wanting to learn. And my colleagues in a little bit that follow me are going to give you specific examples. I'm kind of just giving you like the overview, but they're going to give you the specific examples of what we think can make learning even more passionate than it already is at MES. And then finally, we're talking about the ability to persevere, and I really think that life has lent itself to this lately with adults and students. The biggest thing I will say is that I feel like students will use it says students will use their skill of problem solving and allowing them to reach resolutions. And I think we talk all the time about we have grit and we don't quit, and as cliche as that sounds, it is the absolute truth. I have never seen first graders so excited to be at school, physically present, or virtually, just to be back in the opportunity, the routine of school, no matter how they're learning. So, but to persevere when there's struggle. So allowing the struggle, I think it's important that kids know how to struggle too. So, we do games, learning games all the time. Sometimes they're competitive, sometimes they are collaborative. They need to know how to win and how to lose. And so we talk about that. We talk about how a failure can be turned into success. And so we talk about that. We honor grit in our school. Mrs. Corris reads the announcements each morning about students who are super squires, could not think of the word, or kindness nominations and things like that. So these are important things. We think that these are the exemplars of how the important exemplars would look in an elementary setting. Again, maybe different in a K-3 building than other buildings. But next, I believe I'm going to introduce Mrs. Screeton, and she's going to come up here and talk to you about something else. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Screeton. I'm the EL coordinator for our district. Manchester Elementary would like to start a dual language program in kindergarten for the 2020-2021 school year, with the intention of adding one classroom each year as the students progress through elementary school. Students in the dual language classroom will spend 50% or more of the day learning content in Spanish and the rest of the day learning content in English. The dual language team will continue to collaborate with a representative from Indiana University on best practices for starting a dual language program. We're hopeful that this program will provide an opportunity for our native speaking students to continue developing their native language in school, while also providing native English speakers an opportunity to learn Spanish in the classroom.
Good evening, I'm Sue Janegi, Curriculum Director, and I'm speaking on behalf of Joel Eichenauer, the MES STEM teacher and math interventionist. At the beginning of the 18-19 school year, MES introduced STEM as a specials rotation. In November of 2018, the Indiana Department of Education launched a 6-year STEM strategic plan. That plan outlines a vision to improve STEM instruction, scale evidence-based STEM curriculum in classrooms, and foster early STEM career exposure. With the support from grant funding, Eagle Scout projects, Principal Chorus, and the enthusiastic leadership of Mr. Eichenauer, MES is developing stellar STEM opportunities aligned to the IDOE's vision for STEM education for our youngest scientists and engineers. Planning forward, the IDOE has established a process for STEM certification. That's an award given to exemplary schools that use authentic STEM experiences to develop critical thinkers, communicators, collaborators, and creative problem solvers. MES is actively engaged in the pursuit of STEM certification, as are the other two buildings. MCS has secured several grants that will provide support in the form of training and stipends for curriculum development for our most important resources, our teachers. Once trained, these teachers and their students will need properly designed and equipped indoor and outdoor learning spaces to, in the words of Ms. Frizzle, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. Properly equipped indoor and outdoor spaces to conduct authentic field, community, and citizen science research, house ongoing projects, and participate in interactive learning experiences are paramount to creating a gold standard for the STEM experience we want to deliver at MES.
Hi, I'm Karen Daniels. I'm the preschool teacher at MES. We would love to, we know that preschool is where it's at. It's the foundation, it's where the very beginning of education starts. The excitement of preschool lays a huge foundation for those children who are being educated at MES. We're excited this year that we have 2 full-time preschool classrooms, and we are getting new kids every day. Just have a new kid that's going to start Monday, so a new child, I should say. So we're excited for that. We want more preschool classrooms. We want to add more staff. We would like to provide transportation. Transportation's hard for parents of preschoolers, but we'd love to be able to provide that. That's our dream. Scholarships, it's hard to pay for preschool, so we'd love for us to be able to provide scholarships for those preschool parents to help them educate your children and get them into the Manchester Community School System. Field trips for preschoolers. Wow, field trips are where it's at. Take them to the grocery, take them to Pizza Hut to see how a pizza's made. All of those things are important for preschoolers in their language development, their communications. This is a very needed aspect of preschool. We'd also love to, this is our dream, we'd also love to be able to, when a new child is born into a Manchester community schools, that we would take a gift basket to those new parents. A gift basket that would have books, how to read to your child, what to read to your child, how to ask questions, how to be an educatable parent. And parents want that. I mean, that's the hardest thing you're ever gonna do, and we are not given any instructions on how to do it. So we would love to give the new parents in our Manchester Community Schools a gift basket, start them on their way, get them excited about, in 4 years you can come to preschool at MES. Also, we would love to be able to do a parent newsletter to our media outlets, the News Journal, the paper, to write about what are developmental milestones that your child is hitting or missing, what you can do, what are simple toys you can make with things at home to help educate the children. We want them to come to school excited, and we want them to start at Manchester Community Schools here first, and we want to flood the MES with lots of preschoolers, because then they end up being graduates of MCS. Thank you.
I'm Sam Zorg. I'm the special education teacher at MES. We are, our goal is to have a learning lab. All the other buildings in our district have a learning lab. This is a place where students that have academic or behavior concerns or need supports can go. So we would like our learning lab to have a focus on sensory integration and autism. Autism is a lot more prevalent now. It's impacting 1 out of 54 children in the United States. And sensory processing is taking in all the different ways that we process the world. So through orally, visually, tactile, all these things, it's how our brain processes it and allows us to make good choices, to make the correct choices in that environment. So we would like to have kind of a focus on that in our learning lab moving forward. Math Innovation Lab. We would really like to have a math RTI program. Currently our building has a reading RTI daily program, and our goal would be to get a math one going as well, led by a para who would be under Mr. Eichenhauer's knowledge. We would want whiteboards on all the walls to give kids a chance to collaborate and solve those problems, and to have just manipulatives to work with to build that kinesthetic learning and really embrace that problem-solving skills that they need for their futures.
Hi, Ben McLaughlin, guidance counselor at the elementary school. So for safety and concerns, we have several at our building, and you're aware of most of them probably already. A main one for us is moving our offices to the main entrance of our building. That'll include a newer, larger clinic, adequate office space, and a larger conference room. Our conference room is really tiny, and it's packed on a daily basis. But the safety concern is the biggest part about having, when people enter our building, we see them on a camera and buzz them in, but then if they were there for bad reasons, they could go anywhere they wanted quickly and cause a lot of damage. So we'd like to move the offices to the front of the building so that we can control who gets in and keep them in one spot if we need to before they can have free reign in our building. Another concern is in the hallway and library, creating a hallway between the library and the art room. If you're familiar with our building, if you want to go from the east to west wing and the south end of the building, you've got to cut through the library. And it's set up perfectly where it could be a hallway. And structurally, it's ready to go. The support is in the library with columns, which now, when you cut through the library, that creates a bottleneck. So every time a class goes through, not only because of these columns that you've got to kind of weave in and out of to get to the door, but then the library shelves, it just creates a big bottleneck. So if students need to move quickly at all, that's going to be a really hard area to get through at any time during the day. The wall that's currently between the library and the art room is not a load-bearing wall. It just goes up above the ceiling height and stops. The hallway could go through with entrances to the library and the art room off of the hallway pretty easily. Update and expand our camera system, and we've had some cameras that have not been working, and Eric Sanson has been working. I think the ones that we have are working now. We do have some dead spots where there's just places that we can't see, and some of those are outside on the playground, so that's a place that we're vulnerable that we'd like to have taken care of quickly. You all know how important it is to protect our students and staff as well, but and even just updating the system. It's not real conducive. Right now, Amy can see it on her computer, and that's the only place, I think, other than there's a screen in the office, but we just don't have a lot of really good access to that, and the system could be updated and expanded. And another one then is staff bathrooms in every wing. And this is it's a safety and security issue, really, for staff and students. You know, you're well aware that we have 2 very small staff restrooms by our staff lounge. And so when we have teachers coming from the other end of the building, you know, they are hoping, they have very few opportunities to go to the restroom, and so they are hoping when they get there the restrooms aren't being used. Like, it's a literal crapshoot, like if that bathroom is going to be available or not. And it used to be, you know, in a different day, teachers could use the restrooms down where the kids were, but that's just not the day and age we're in anymore. So we just, for the safety of all involved, liability reasons and everything else, we desperately need staff restrooms in each wing. All right, next slide. Building modifications. This one's a little more fun. We've been dreaming about removing our stage. It's not really used anymore. We don't have school programs in there anymore since we have the PAC, so that stage is largely wasted space. And we would like to take out the steps. That would lower it down to the height, the floor level of the commons area and the gym, and then we could open up doors into the gym. And then we would also like to repurpose we have locker rooms with showers and lockers and things like that that we don't use at all. We'd like to utilize those restrooms a lot better, and then opening up that space too would give us better traffic in and out of the gym, just create a much bigger usable space, not only for lunch, but just a better multi-purpose room that goes into kind of the rest of our plan for the commons area. Part of that would be installing a soft acoustical flooring, and part of this has to do with noise. I mean, it's good for different reasons, but our commons area is very, very loud, and kids don't have a lot of opportunities at school to be loud, and it makes me sad every day when they're in the lunchroom and we have to keep telling them to be quiet because the sound travels down the halls. You know, the commons is open and the sound just bounces off, and so during their lunchtime, we got to tell them to be quiet. Now, I mean, they can't be screaming out of control, but kids need to be loud, and what better time than in the middle of the day after they've had a longer morning, they have a chance to, cool down and let some steam off. So we'd like them to be able to be a little more loud in those areas. And the last part of that, almost the last part, to enclose the commons area, you're all familiar with the columns, and then there's the concrete block-like benches. We want to get rid of those concrete block benches and build half walls in between all of the columns within glass above. So that would pretty much enclose all of our whole commons area, and that would help with sound a great deal. It would still be visible with the glass. It would still give us a lot of visibility, so it wouldn't feel closed off. We would have doors in front of the office to get into the commons area, and then at the kitchen end and the other end, just so you still have good access, good visibility, but that's going to help with the sound so we can let kids be kids. And then we can utilize it for other things during the day as well that are noisy. One of the biggest dreams we have is lofts. We've got a lot of space that's also not being used above our heads in there, and we would love to install lofts, maybe at both ends, and maybe actually a walkway between these ends. We're talking about a spiral slide, maybe spiral staircases. And I don't know if Amy's going to have a chance to talk to you about the rationale, but it's part of the, surprise and delight factor that they experience at Eminence. I keep wanting to say shock and awe, but I know that doesn't always have maybe the best connotations, but you know what I mean. But we want kids and parents to walk in our school and say, wow, or to walk in and go, huh. We want that. We want students and parents to walk in our building and just know this is where we want to go. This is a special place. Like things are gonna happen in here that we don't even know, but we're excited about it. So part of that reason is just to give them the surprise and delight experience, but we're gonna utilize it in lots of great ways to get kids excited about learning, excited about being there. I mean, we want kids to look forward to going to school and maybe they don't even wanna go home at the end of the day because they have so much fun learning in our buildings. So these are some of our plans for building modifications. Thank you.
I have one quick question. You said something about taking the locker rooms out, and I lost the last part of it. Could you cover that again?
Yeah.
What did you plan on doing
Yeah,
with that?
we have, there's a boys and girls locker room off of the gym, and there's showers and lockers, and we don't use any of that anymore. So in each restroom, at least in the boys' restroom, there's one toilet, one urinal, and they're pretty much unused. If we were to take out the stage, that would drop that down to that level as well. We could then gain better access to those restrooms. And we had thought, Amy and I had been talking about this for a while, and originally we had hoped to take out the boys and girls showers, and that would make a hallway, and then we could access those restrooms there. But now the girls' shower area is being utilized for a staff restroom, so that will change some, but we'll still have access to what are currently the locker rooms that are just completely unused, and give us better restroom access, mostly for just that commons area that'll be expanded. Because right now the kids have to go around the corner to the bathrooms on the other side of the cafeteria, and it's not easy to supervise that at all. So when the kids are in the commons area or in the gym, it's just gonna give everybody a lot better access to better bathrooms.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Bethany Hall, and I teach second grade at MES. Maria Montessori said, watching a child makes it obvious that the development of his mind comes through movements. Children move, yet for schools across our nation, our seating for children has not been adapted to this understanding. This must change. People often think of a child learning when they see a child motionless and quiet, yet this is not the case. Montessori would argue that mental development must be connected with movement and depend on it. Children should be in movable seating, have the opportunity to change and rearrange seating, and should be provided with interactive spaces so movement can take place all around our school. Abraham Maslow hypothesized that humans were guided by their basic needs, and once this need is met and satisfied, we can move on to the next. We must remember this as we create environments for children to learn, then plan accordingly. Our plan to meet our students' needs of security and then belonging can be brought to actualization with lighting throughout our building that promotes learning and provides a calming and safe and quiet environment for our students who often come from chaos. The need for belonging and community can be met covering our walls with art and murals that promote positive character traits and tells the story of our community. Learning spaces are to be spaces that connect students with their community, to people, to places, and to deepen and expand their learning. As educators, we must understand that it is not only our lesson plans that teach, but also the environment we create for our students that teaches something to our students. Think of it this way. When on a tour of a historical city, it is not just the tour guide that promotes us or prompts us to expand our thinking. It's the sights and the sounds and the smells and the touch of the city that sparks our interest and our curiosity. Our schools must do this. We can use our walls in our school to create an environment where all students, using the principles of universal design, can interact and reflect on learning and to broaden their curiosity. This can be achieved with providing our students with windows to the world to broaden their schema and interactive wall and floor spaces to spark new energy for learning. Cornell University found that on average, children of primary age spend 9 hours per day seated. In contrast, Stuart L. Brown, president of the National Institute of Play states, if you look at what produces learning and memory and well-being of a child, play is as fundamental as any other aspect of life. Our students need to be playing, and they need to be outside, and they need to be interacting. 7% of first graders in the United States now get no access to recess at all, with many more having their minutes drastically cut. And the poorer the school, the less time is dedicated to it. We understand the importance of play at MES. We have several recesses throughout the day, but it's not enough. We want their play to be meaningful. So just as the inside of our school plan is dedicated to the full development of the child, so do we want our outdoor plan to be dedicated to the development of the child as well. And we want to do that through the use of interactive blackboards and through interactive landscaping in conjunction with our STEM department. And that concludes MES's presentation. So thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you to all of you that came and presented. Obviously, a lot of thought was put into that, so thank you for that. I know there's been hours and hours and hours involved in this, so I appreciate all that time that you put in. Thank you.
Dr. Carmel, is fourth grade going back to MES as part of this plan?
Well, you'll have to wait and see, because now we're having MIS presenting.
Okay.
We'll see.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Baldwin. I am the principal at Manchester Intermediate School. The operative word for MIS is transition. MIS is a transitional building. It is a building where students transition from elementary school and they begin to add responsibilities and prepare for the rigors of the junior, senior high school. It's also a building in transition in terms of what we want to be in the future. And it is our hope and our goal that following this presentation done by myself and key staff members and stakeholders, that you can see where we want to transition from where we are currently as we sit here today on September 22nd, 2020, and where we would like to transition to as a result of the strategic planning process. So without further ado, I would like to begin our presentation this evening with Mrs. Nancy Handback, fourth grade teacher. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to have Mr. Baldwin just put these notes up. I'm not going to read through them. I'm just going to kind of, I don't know, I'll just read my notes for you. As you read through these slides, you will notice the many opportunities for fourth grade students to grow and exhibit the 6 attributes. Fourth grade classrooms are collaborative, where students discuss and they work together. They share their knowledge verbally and in many different written formats. They participate in many projects that require cooperation, compromise, decision-making, perseverance, and final products that show understanding. Some of the projects that I wanted to point out to you is 1, a bridge project, where they are given a budget and they have to plan, and then they have to purchase the supplies, then create a bridge, and then test it and try to hold as much sand as possible. A Rube Goldberg project that they do is a series of simple machines where one action leads to another with a final task of maybe moving a car. Solar house project where they must trap and hold heat as long as possible. And a speedometry project, which was actually provided by Matchbox cars. All of this is just part of who we are.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Allen, 5th grade teacher at MIS. And with ours, and being illiterate in the 5th grade, we have several different ways that we're literate. One of the ways that I'd like to point out While the English language arts teachers certainly do a great job of helping them with their English language arts skills, in math we incorporate that with math writings, where each week we have them do a story problem where they have to actually incorporate their writing skills. We do this every week, and not only do they incorporate writing skills, they have to also incorporate their math skills along with that. When we have social studies and science writing skills, we do incorporate, you can't just put down a few words, you have to use your English language arts skills there as well. Complete sentences are always expected. We use J.A. Biztown as our literate piece as well. We do financial literacy there. We talk about real-world ways to use money. Very often we talk about all the financial aspects there. Many projects are done along the way there as well. In the community aspects of communication, in J.A. Biztown it also offers a great opportunity to involve community people in. They interview our students, and our students are prepped ahead of time to know how to do an interview. This has been a real great experience for our students as well as community members. We get a lot of great feedback. Some of our students are very nervous when they go down to do their interviews, but the interviewers are very good with our students, and our kids get an opportunity to see how a real interview goes. They actually have to answer a series of questions. We prep them ahead of time. We also have students having to learn to communicate to our classes. In social studies and science, we're doing presentations frequently. They're paired up, so it's not just they have to get up in front of their peers, but they learn to do it with each other. They learn to share that responsibility. In English, they do persuasive speeches, but it's a continual learning to get up and present things in front of others and to show others what they've learned in different ways that they present it through Google Slides, so that they're not afraid to get up and present in front of people. The next one, in collaborating with others, again, with social studies and science in particular, we have a lot of different group things going on, but we also do in English and math classes. We practice critiquing each other's work. In math, I know in our classes, we practice if your answer is wrong, it's okay, but we have to learn how to critique each other's answers there. If they're right or wrong, can you back your answer up? We work in small groups. We do paper revisions in our language classes. We do a lot of revisions with our math answers as well. We look at how many different ways we can answer the math questions. There's not just one way to answer it, but how many different ways we can come up with that. Problem solving, obviously that's one in math that we do a lot of opportunities for there, stressing that while there is perhaps one answer, but there might be a lot of different ways to get to that answer. I tease dads a lot because kids will come in and say, well, my dad said this was the way to get it. We'll talk about there are a lot of different ways that we can come up with that answer, and we try to stress how many different ways we can and talk about how the different ways we can and why is there another way that we can come up with that. We do use a lot of different resources. Our Chromebooks are used a lot in all of our classes. We've talked about the different ways that we can present our ideas. So not only do we use paper and pencil, we still do that occasionally, but we are using our Chromebooks a lot. As we look at our career projects and looking at looking at our future in 5th grade, we've had the opportunity in the past that J.A. Biztown has a great program. We go there, and that is our spring activity that we spend part of 9 weeks getting ready for that. But we also, in March, have been able to go to Heartland Career Center and have a great field trip there where we get to see the many opportunities that they have for our students. We've been able to tour at Ball State and let the kids see some opportunities there. We've in the past been to Ivy Tech in Warsaw to let the children experience the opportunities that are there. while we're doing JA BizTown, we try to stress to the students that money should not always be your main focus on your career, but what are your interests and what are your skills? And let's get those things together. But now that you know that, let's now explore, what does it take to get there? Because, you know, you may want to be a marine biologist, but do you really want to live there? Is that what you really want to do? Do you really enjoy the sciences? Is that what you really want to do? Do you really want to spend that kind of time getting there? Because if that's not what you want to do, then maybe you need to rethink what you think your career wants to be. And we had a lot of kids who said they wanted to be a vet because they love animals. You know, so in doing our career exploring, they found out what it took to be a vet. You know, oh, that's not really what they wanted to do, because it was more than just, I love animals. You know, I love petting my dog or cat, you know. So during our career exploring, we had them go a little deeper in what they thought they wanted to be and see what all that was. So in trying to be a passionate learner, not only what they love to do, but where's it going to take them, and we try to encourage them to take a look at that. Throughout our students' learning, we're always trying to get them to persevere, and that's a hard one because they want to be one and done. And it's hard to work on that, because that one and done business we're talking about, it's not a McDonald's drive-through, you know, quick and done, let's get it and go. So we're always trying to help them with, what goals do you have? We do our iReady beginning of the year tests, and we set goals with them. How do you want to reach those goals? What are some things you want to do? We're constantly looking for growth in students, setting goals and revisiting those with those. We're allowing for a variety of learning experiences for them, helping them try to reach those goals. So it's not a constant, you know, we're constantly trying to help them persevere and see what it takes to get there, because sometimes it's really hard to get there. You know, I talk to them a lot about growth. It's not easy. You know, I talk to them about, you know, some of this technology stuff. It's not easy for me. I've done a lot of this virtual learning with students this year and learning all the technology that goes with that. They watched me struggle with it this year. You know, I had my little notes. I'd run to this board and that board, and I'd say, look, I'm having to learn this stuff too. You know, it's not easy. I said, my mind's kind of crazy right now too with it. You guys can learn too. So it hurts to grow, but if you persevere, you can get there. So it's kind of a hard step to go, but we help them persevere to try to get where they need to go. We are always trying to help the students with trying to understand that when they are working, that they need to revise their things that they're working on, improve what they're working on. We demonstrate that they always are needing to help themselves grow. We help each other grow and allow them to challenge themselves, and always are working to improve things. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather Turflinger, sixth grade teacher at MIS, and I'm just going to briefly touch on each one of these traits. So first, for literacy, our students work on becoming literate across all subject areas by completing a wide variety of projects and assignments. Students complete several different genre writings through English language arts, as well as other projects that incorporate literacy, whether it be in science or social studies or financial literacy and math. Sixth grade students are often asked to step out of their comfort zone and work on formal communication. I stress that because most sixth graders like to communicate, but not always in the way that we want them to grow. We do this through encouraging them to communicate through learning, whether it's group work as well as various presentations and digital discussions in all subject areas. This might look like book recommendations that they're sharing with the class, presentations in science or social studies. We ask them to create carnival projects in math and then host a carnival for fourth grade students as well, where they're expected to communicate with those students throughout the carnival as well. Many units within our sixth grade curriculum ask students to collaborate with partners or in groups in order to assist each other and complete various tasks. In sixth grade, we do something called STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Students rotate through 6-week rotations. Some of these include Lego challenges where they're working together to accomplish a given task. It might be readers theater where they have to work with a group to present, or coding challenges as well. Sixth graders are encouraged on a daily basis to be problem solvers, whether it be dealing with everyday problems such as academic learning situations. Anything ranging from working on time management, organizational skills, peer conflict, to those dreaded word problems in math, or diagnosing patients based on symptoms in a medical detective simulation. We continuously encourage students to be curious and passionate. I often tell my students, whatever you decide to be in life, be a good one. One way that we promote this is through another one of our STEAM rotations called Genius Hour. You may have also heard of it as a passion project or a 20% project. For those of you who don't know, this idea comes from Google, where they give their employees 20% of their day to just research whatever problem or topic of their choice. So we ask our students to do the same thing, whether it be something they've learned about in class and would like to know more about, a skill they'd like to learn, with their end goal being that they have to then present what they've learned or show us a skill that they've learned through that passion project. In sixth grade, we work to build grit in our students. We encourage them to reflect and grow from each experience, whether it be a success or a failure. We do a lot of STEM challenges, followed with questions, what went well? What could you have done better? It's always that light bulb moment when you have students asking, can we do that again? Can I try again? So whether that be the marshmallow challenge or bridge the gap, the snowball catapult, whatever that may be, once they've done it and they've seen others try it, they always want that second chance to go back and do it again.
So as we've just heard by 3 of our leaders at Manchester Intermediate School, there are a number of great things that are going on in our classrooms. However, at this point, we need to look at redesigning or designing a building that better supports the greatness that are going on in the classroom at Manchester Intermediate School to better support our kids. That's where the dreams come in. Just to briefly lay out what the strategic planning process looked like at MIS, here we go. We had various components and various stakeholders that were involved in this process. We had staff collaboration multiple times throughout each month. And these collaborations were done both within grade levels and both within departments. So sometimes 4th grade would meet to discuss various components of their strategic plan. Other times we would get together with our math, English language arts, special education, specials teachers, guidance as well. That way all stakeholders in different areas were communicating about what they would need to create a great 21st century school. The grade level chairs who are here with me tonight, teachers in grades 4 to 6, and along with our specials, special education, and guidance department, we met frequently as well throughout the year to take information gleaned in these collaboration sessions. The Manchester Intermediate School staff as a whole was integral in this process. Approximately 25 teachers lent their expertise, their knowledge, their time, their skills, and their ability to research to decide what would be best for our school going forward. We also met with our student stakeholders, which were comprised of our student council. It's a great group of future and current leaders who had great ideas on what it might take to transform Manchester Intermediate School into a school that would be great both for them currently and for future students who are currently at MIS in the preschool and maybe have not even been born yet. Another large group that we utilized was our parent focus group. And this was ultimately comprised of 16 parents representing 11 MIS families. And in these families, we had people in business, people in education, people in agriculture, people from all across different industries in our community giving their perspectives and their insights on what they would like to see in a future Manchester Intermediate School, as well as issues that they had both with the physical structure and the curricular offerings at the current building. Stakeholders at MIS also made 2 school visits, one to Northern Heights Elementary School located in Columbia City, Indiana, and one to Blair Point Elementary located in Peru, Indiana. And while these may not seem like, you know, profound destinations like around Indianapolis and Homestead and Fort Wayne, these are schools with similar demographics and a similar communal makeup to what we have here at Manchester Intermediate School. And what they are doing with their schools and tight, limited budgets in order to make their facilities great for their kids. You know, it comes down to dollars and cents sometimes, and it's great to see what our peer school districts are able to do with the monies that they have.
As Mr. Baldwin shared on the last slide, some of the positive aspects that came from our parent focus group and our student leadership team were these things directly. They felt that we had a caring and committed staff, a large and well-maintained playground, good school lunches with a variety to choose from, because we know food is always important. Commitment of doing what is best for students. They felt that our building is respectful of diversity within the student population. They enjoy that we have different specials classes from which to choose from, and that we immerse students in hands-on experiences. They also felt that, or they enjoyed the incentives for positive behavior, promoting collaborative efforts among students. Administration is accessible, and communication is valued. Traditionally, we have smaller class sizes at MIS. I think I missed one. Immersing students in public speaking and oral communication, and a commitment to 21st century learning with STEM and Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way is very much like project-based learning as well. And a variety of ECA opportunities for students, whether it be intramural volleyball, basketball, soccer, as well as some academic clubs as well.
Some other positive aspects from parents and students: we have a caring and committed staff. We're very good about sharing ideas with each other. We have a large and well-maintained playground. We have 5 areas out there in which students can play. We have good school lunches with variety to choose from. And I would like to speak to that. Becky Landis comes out and does a nice presentation to our 5th graders on how lunches are provided and how she comes up with those lunches. Let me tell you, folks, that's a really hard job. Our 5th graders are blown out of the water with what all list she has to check off to provide lunches. They're much more appreciative of what she does to give them a nice lunch. And I enjoy her lunches too. We're committed to doing what's best for students, respectful of diversity within student population, different special classes from which to choose, and immerse students in experiential learning.
You know, MIS it's a great building. It's been a great building for students, you know, over about the last quarter century. But education has changed a great deal in the last 25 years. And so the structure currently at MIS, you know, while it's housed a lot of students, and a lot of students have gone through those doors and gone on to great things, there are changes that can be made, whether at MIS or potentially to this building here, in order to facilitate a better education for the students in grades 4 to 6 in this school district. So I felt it was important, and we felt it was important to highlight the fact that, it's not all bad. MIS has a lot of positive aspects, but there are things that need to be improved about both the physical structure, the location can be detrimental at times, and also some of the needs of the facility in terms of staffing as well, in order to really to be able to provide for our students. Just to briefly touch base on areas that were felt that needed to improve by our student leadership team. One thing is commitment to our classes that we're offering. We are big into STEM and Project Lead the Way right now, but our current STEM classroom is an old computer lab classroom that we're just repurposing. If we're really going to commit and invest in our STEM program, we have to put money there in order to structure a 21st century classroom for our staff member who teaches that and get them the supplies they need to really to invest in this program. I'll say Andrew Chinworth does a phenomenal job for our STEM students, but we have to put the resources in his hands to be able to give our students really what they're looking for to push their education forward in that area. Students also advocate for themselves. They'd like to learn foreign language starting in grades 4 to 6. That's huge. Studies show that the earlier that students pick up a foreign language, they're more likely to be able to retain that as opposed to waiting until they're in high school, which is how we traditionally do it in districts in this area. So the students are really able to pinpoint the things they'd like. I think sometimes we get stuck thinking that, kids, they just want more recess and they just want, better lunches, but we're really doing them a disservice because the students that we deal with, they're able to advocate for themselves in terms of what they'd like to see at the school. One other thing is, they realize that the location of MIS can be somewhat detrimental to them being able to piggyback on services and opportunities here in town. We can't walk to the university. We can't walk to the aquatic center if we need to. We have to schedule buses, and we have to ride a bus there and ride a bus back to be able to do our 6th and 4th grade swim programs. It takes almost a half a day for those teachers in transit time, and that's opportunity lost because time is finite, and you only get so much of it in a school day. So proximity would really help us, our students felt, in terms to be able to offer them a better educational product. There we go. Our parent support group obviously was integral in providing feedback as well. Parents, they talked a great deal when it came to staffing of our building, and specifically when it came to our counseling programs and our mental health therapist offerings, which right now we don't have. And, at the ages of 4 to 6, our counselor, really does a lot with working with students, processing things like their emotions, because 4th to 6th grade, we're starting to hit puberty there, and there are a lot of emotions that kids start to go through at that age that they really haven't experienced before. And, there is a big difference between a school counselor and a mental health therapist. A school counselor, traditionally, they help kids with things like friendship groups, and how to be a good friend and building those skills and relationships, where a mental health therapist is able to tackle some of those more profound issues. And right now, we have a school counselor that's trying to deal with both those issues as best they can, and there just simply aren't enough hours in a day. Specifically given the fact that, they're working in multiple buildings at the present time as well. Parents also mentioned, the proximity is an issue that we cannot offer our students the chance to utilize those resources in town as easily as students that may attend the junior, senior high school. And they also, made note of the fact that they would like to see increased specials offerings for their students. That just comes down to having the space and having the ability financially to support those positions. And lastly, we have our school staff. The school staff, they echoed a lot of the sentiments of the other two groups that we talked to. The space of the school is not conducive to, again, offering a 21st century education. You know, we want to be able to break out into smaller groups of students throughout the building. Right now, our answer to that really is to utilize, classrooms that aren't being used, of which we have very few, or put students in the hallway. But for those of you that have been out to MIS, if you're a 6 foot, 2-inch man like I am, with the lockers in the hallways, I can reach and touch from one side of the hallway to the other. The space is just not conducive for being able to provide those opportunities to work in small groups for our students. And, our staff members, our paraprofessionals, they do what they can to duck into the library or the art room or, the STEM classroom when it's not being used. But there are times where we have more need to meet with small groups of students than we have spaces available. Again, coming back to support, the staff really, really laments the fact that right now we just don't have the ability to invest in our programs like STEM, mental health professionals, guidance, these big things that would really do well for our students. We just aren't able to perform at this time. And then we get into safety and security of the building. The current building at MIS, and this is one of my biggest issues, as well as the staff's, is it quite frankly is not a safe building from a modern safety and security standpoint. If that building out there was to be maintained and still utilized as MIS, we would need to move the office to the front of the building. Right now, our office administrative assistants and myself do due diligence to try to ensure that any visitors come straight to the office, but there's nothing that would stop anybody from coming straight into the building and going into the gym, going into the restroom, going into our commons area where students are eating lunch. Students and staff are easily accessed by anybody that would come into the building with ill intent, and that's an issue for me. Another thing is we have a great area for kids to play outside, but we have the security of people that walk a path that goes from Laketon up to the lake area. And even though they're not on our property, there's been times that, in the past year and 2 months that I've been there, that we have people that aren't supposed to be on our property just walking that path, and we have to go out and chase them off. And that's an issue for me, because the ultimate thing for me is to keep our students and staff safe. And right now, the physical building at Laketon, we're not, able to do that as well as I think that we possibly could. Inside the building, the classroom doors, have windows that would easily be accessible by an intruder. The doors are not safe. The windows on the sides would not allow for an exit in the event that students would need to get out through a window. There are a lot of needs in that facility that, quite frankly, in the early 90s, late 80s, when it was built and designed, weren't under the consideration of school architects. But now, in 2020, we understand that there is a greater need to design our buildings with safety and security of our children in mind.
Some of our equipment needs that we would like would be whiteboard tables. I was at a conference and we had whiteboard tables in front of us, and wow, how much nicer that was. You could have students sitting there doing their work right there in front of you as you were talking, instead of, okay, everybody, let's go get our whiteboards out. Everybody got your markers, and it's so much nicer that we could all be doing our work right there, and it's accessible all the time to everybody. Flexible seating and desks that are adjustable and move easily in and out of groupings. We would all love to do groups, but you always have to, all right, everybody, let's move, move, move. They're not easy to move around. Standing workstations and adjustable workstations. Again, we would love to do, as we do our projects, to actually have space for those things to happen. Magnetic whiteboards or those opaque glass walls. Again, that same conference I was at, the ladies up there writing, I'm like, oh, I want one of those. I would love magnetic walls instead of stapling stuff on these little boards I have, and then I want to tape something over here. If you can do magnetic everywhere and then use it for opaque, you've got lots of options. Kids can be doing stuff up there. You've got opportunities to do all kinds of things. Outlets, I don't even hardly know what those are in my room. You know, I think we each have maybe 3 or 4, and, you know, we are supposed to be plugging in our computers to these things. You know, a kid comes in, they haven't charged their Chromebooks. Sorry, we don't have outlets for that because we've got our other things plugged in that we need to use for the day. We have equipment and projects that we would like to be able to store. Anytime we do projects in our classrooms, we kind of look around our room and go, where can we put these things? Because there is no place to put them. So we're running around trying to figure out, can I put them up high? No, we're not allowed to put them up high because the fire marshal will come in and whoops, we got to bring those down because the fire marshals come because we're not supposed to have them up high. So we don't have storage for things that are, in today's time, things that we are doing and wanting to do with our students. 3D printers, podiums for presentations, and more shelving space. All those would be great things that would help out in our current needs and wants. I was here in this building teaching when Mr. Self over there said we were going to get new shelving. Now, I was one of those teachers that took any old shelves that anybody was getting rid of because we didn't have storage for anything then. And he came through and said, we're getting new shelves. And I said, we don't need that stuff. He said we were. We cleaned out and we got it. And let me tell you, I felt professional. I felt like we finally had things at that time that allowed us to be, you know, up to date and serviced our kids and serviced the teachers at that time. Well, yep, it's time again. I do feel like, you know, when I read all these things and see everything that's out there. So it's like I experienced it once, and it's like, wow, we really need it again.
I'd just like to reiterate what Mr. Baldwin said. MIS is a 4, 5, 6 building. 4th grade teachers feel like we are the bridge between elementary and intermediate school. We're still elementary in 4th grade. We don't trade a lot of classes. We do a lot of collaboration together. But with that, we're helping our students, our 4th grade students, over the year become more responsible and teaching them some more independence. So when they go to 5th grade, they get a little bit more, and then 6th grade, and 6th grade is preparing them for junior high and high school. So I still would love to think of us as that bridge between MES and MIS. With that said, some of the things that we need for facility, I'm going to have these up here, but some of the things I really wanted to point out, and one of our biggest concern is space. We need space. We need places where we can meet as a grade level. And sometimes it's like the whole school, so we can all get together. We need places where we can hold science labs and STEM labs with adequate tools, such as tables, where students can collaborate and perform demonstrations and house projects that are in like being done. We need places where students can explore their interests and their creativity. We need places where smaller groups can meet without competing with other groups or classrooms. And we need places with more needs that can be met, such as remediation, trauma support, SEL, and EL. That's our biggest, but also there are these things that we would really like to have. We'd like to have a STEM teacher. We'd like to have that support as we put all these into action. Thank you.
So tonight, in this MIS presentation, we've talked about the who, we've talked about the what, we've talked about the when. The elephant in the room really is to talk about the where that this is going to happen. You know, after talking with all of our stakeholders, after looking at all of the data that was gathered, after looking at all of the opportunities that may be available to us, we have decided that given the opportunity with the proper planning, staff and community input, and a commitment to allow the physical building to be redesigned and repurposed to meet the needs sought by the MIS community and the greater community, We would propose that MIS would be best served to move into town into the current MAO junior high school building as a 4th through 6th grade building, but only after the renovations pursuant to this strategic plan have taken place. Otherwise, this current facility as it is, it's not any better than our current Laketon facility. And while the current Laketon facility is a nice building, it does not meet the needs of a 21st century classroom or school, nor does it promote the safety and well-being of all students and staff. Moving into the current junior high location would afford us more safety due to proximity, more flexibility with our schedule and staffing to be able to utilize and share resources with the junior senior high school, and it would give us a physical location that would potentially allow, again, for those shared resources. With renovations, this building here could become a facility that gives students a fantastic chance to pursue a variety of activities in line with their academic and future goals. Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank all of you that presented from MIS, and I know the hours that you put into this, so thank you so much. Much, much appreciated. I love the research that you did and at the time you took to really take a look at what your needs were. Thank you.
Good evening. It gives me a great deal of pride as a principal at Manchester Junior Senior High School to be with you this evening with my colleagues, and there's numerous of them, amounts of them tonight are here, who make up our core team and will be presenting our plan. Each one of them are representing many others who have been involved along the way and who have put a great deal of time into the development of this plan. There's a list of the members that are here today, and also a few that were with us along the way. We collected data and sought research on best practices from high-performing school districts. Traveled to Hamilton Southeastern, a fantastic high school in the suburbs of Indianapolis, and saw a lot of the new innovations that they're using at their high school level. We went with that MES and MIS down to Eminence, Kentucky, and checked out the school on fire and gained some knowledge and information that we thought maybe we could incorporate back here as well. And then, of course, Triton, who on our radar traditionally has just had some fantastic test scores at the 7th and 8th grade level. It just seems like every year. And so we're kind of intrigued. You know, is there something that we can learn from them? And so we visited all three of those schools and felt like they really kind of gave us some resources in our planning. We took input from several groups of stakeholders, none more important than our students. We formed a dream council who is tasked, as you might have guessed, to dream big. This council consisted of students who had dreams of their own and solicited even more dreams from their friends and fellow classmates. We involved several community members, including public officials, building leaders, college professors, retired administrators, in order to collect fundamental needs for the community. So this was a we, not a he or she, but it certainly was a we in our plan. And finally, at school we held several grade level meetings, departmental meetings late last fall, over the winter, and through the spring during our professional learning community time to detail key elements necessary for student pathways and achievement for our current world. In all, we had nearly over 100 people involved with the plan you will see here today. Douglas Reeves, one of the top educational consultants of the past 30 years, an author of over 30 books and 100 articles on educational leadership and school organization, says, for some people, the term strategic planning brings to mind a disciplined, thoughtful process that links the values, missions, and goals of a school system with a set of coherent strategies and tasks designed to achieve those goals. For others, the term induces a cringe, brought about by memories of endless meetings, fact-free debates, 3-ring binders, and dozens of objectives, tasks, strategies, plans, and goals, all left undone after the plan was completed. He goes on to say, advocates of strategic planning reason that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. On the surface, it seems obvious. Who could argue with the need for plans? Many strategic planning processes designed to impel a district to action actually have the opposite effect. Some districts wind up setting an impossible number of goals. Research shows that 70% of business strategic plans are never implemented. We as school leaders are guiding this process to engage in rational planning that will lead to improved student results. We have forged forward with the idea that strategic planning process is a tool to improve student learning and achievement, not as an end in itself. Our hope is that we embrace the importance of strategy by developing a plan that is focused, brief, and provides consistent monitoring and evaluation. Most important, our teachers and leaders who implement strategic plans have implemented the process with the confidence that their professional practices truly influence student achievement. This time we will begin with something that's become very dear to our hearts. That is the importance of collaboration.
Okay, so Manchester Junior Senior High School, we have 2 goals for our graduates when they walk out our doors. And involving collaboration, those 2 goals are that we provide our students an opportunity to collaborate with one another on projects. Second one would be that we provide them an opportunity to collaborate on or address a need within our community. And so in order for us to provide that for our students, we have some needs. One particular thing we need is we lack space. We need space for our students to be able to go outside of the classroom setting, to be able to go into this space where technology is available. We've got projectors, we've got screens, just spaces for them to be able to collaborate. Another thing, we need designated testing areas. If you look around, you're sitting in the desks that our students test in. This is where we come to do tests. We administer tests all throughout the year. We have iLearn, iReady, iStep, AP testing, PSATs, and we need a setting that we can take our students to. We work all year long to prepare our students for these tests, prepare our students for the next step. We need space that's conducive for them to test. Another thing, if we want to teach our students how to collaborate and be good collaborators, we need access to more time, more intentional release time in order to be better collaborators ourselves, in order to collaborate with one another and be able to instill that within our students. So whether those are e-learning days, build-in days for us as a staff to be able to collaborate.
And then as we continue to work on collaboration, we have a need for students to be able to access more opportunities for business and marketing, industrial tech, art, through the ag department, all of these areas to be able to access the items that they need in order to continue to be able to create the projects and have 21st century learners. We also need flexible seating and whiteboards in the halls. This collaboration involves multiple teachers working together. We have teachers that are doing that collaboration right now and working on getting classes together and doing these projects and working collectively. But when you break it down and don't have the materials or the machinery needed or the space to do it in, it makes it increasingly more difficult. So continuing to work on expanding our collaboration both in the community and within our building is very important for us to continue this.
Well, it's really fun for me to be here tonight because communication is something that I am truly passionate about, and being able to communicate is a lifelong skill. It is a critical skill. It is important to success in no matter what area that you're going to be in. And so I would ask all of you to think about the fact, someone that you think of that's a really good speaker, a really good presenter, and what it is about them that makes them so good. And it is, it's fun for me to be able to get up and teach students how to speak, and it is fun to take students to competitions how to speak. But the best thing is, Mrs. Corris was able to come to my room last week, and a group of students presented an idea to her that they want to share with all the second graders. And I was on the other side of the room working with another group of kids and didn't have to say one word. So watching kids do what they need to do in order to be successful is exactly why communication is so important. And being able to give them those opportunities in a classroom setting, in a contest setting, in any kind of setting, can only lead to success for our students and our community.
And business and industry leaders keep telling us that, one of the skills they really want students to have is to have those good communication skills. And I don't think we're doing a very good job with our graduates if they don't feel at least confident enough to get up and present in front of a group of people, a small group, a larger group. They should at least feel like they're equipped to do that. It may still not be their favorite thing to do, but we do at least want them to feel like they have the confidence to do that. One of the things that we're suggesting that we'd like to do is to add a presentation-oriented lecture hall, which would be a tiered lecture hall that would give students the opportunity to formally present in front of groups. It would also give us opportunities to do interaction with them, to have the technology already built in so that we could do that. We've witnessed that in a lot of places that we've gone to for contests and for those kinds of things. And it's just another kind of space that they could also learn to present in. And I think that's really important. The other aspect that we really wanted to kind of streamline, and I think we all owe a huge debt, quite frankly, to Randy Self, who's sitting over here. I was over here during 7th period today and watching the wires and the connections and all of those good things. He does a wonderful job with it. But I'll be very frank and honest with you. In a classroom that requires multiple dongles for multiple devices and cords that don't quite reach to where they need to go, doing presentations in a classroom is challenging. Doing them in other spaces is challenging. I think we should all admit, those of us who presented tonight, this space is not ideal for doing that. And so one of the things that we want to do is we would like to have every area that we'd like to do presentations in at the high school, we'd like to have those equipped so it's very easy for a student, it's very easy for a teacher, it's very easy for a guest to come in and do a presentation without having to hire a roadie like Mr. Self back here to take care of all the wires and all the connections, and how much nicer that would be as we teach students how to present. It's a lot of anxiety for even high school students to get up and give a presentation. When you compound that with, is the dongle going to work and is it going to connect, and then the video doesn't quite show, it can be even a greater sense of fear and intimidation to do that. And we just like to make that a whole lot easier for our students to be able to be a part of that and to gain some experience, and also the confidence to be able to do that as well.
I would say one thing to kind of piggyback on to what Mr. Zinsmeister said. I hear from my husband lots about, are you teaching your students how to speak? Are you teaching your students how to do an interview? Are you teaching your students how to get up in front and handle themselves in a public presentation? And I look at him every time and I say, I'm trying. I am trying to do everything that I can do. And I know many of us are, and I know we have a senior interview day, and I know we have an excellent internship program that we send kids out into the community, and we ask them to represent our school well and to be a productive, positive part of the community. We lack the area in order to be able to give them the best opportunities that we can. And there is not one of us in here, and I don't know what everyone does for a job, but there's not one of us in here that hasn't had to do something that might be a little bit uncomfortable, that maybe has to do a little bit of public speaking, and yet it is where we grow. When we are uncomfortable, that is where we grow. That is where we succeed, and that is where we make stronger students and we make a stronger community. And so we sometimes have to push ourselves as teachers. Not sometimes, we do push ourselves. And I think as board members too, we have to push ourselves so that we can give our students the very best opportunity to become those great communicators that will then come back one day in our classrooms and be our guest speakers and show kids that I was sitting in that seat when I was a senior in high school 8 years ago, and look where I am now.
We want our students to graduate from Manchester as problem solvers. And that means we want them to be students that will address problems within the community and be able to identify the resources available to them to solve those problems. In order to do that, we want our students to feel empowered. We want them to be empowered to create solutions to real world problems, create and implement those solutions. And I think it's a kind of a problem in our society today where students feel like they can't. They either, I don't have the ability. I'm just a student and I don't have the ability to solve the problem, or worse, if they feel like I am not allowed to solve this problem, I don't have permission to kind of dabble in this world. We want our students to be empowered and know that, hey, I can solve this problem. I can have more of the mindset of see a problem, solve a problem, rather than I'm going to let an adult fix this for me. Secondly, we want to develop opportunities for students across cross-curricular opportunities where they can collaborate. Things like where, for example, an art class, a business class, an ag class, these students could work together in business ventures, major projects. Obviously, that's connected to collaboration, but during these major projects, students are going to face a variety of challenges, from group dynamics to logistics, resources, feedback from our stakeholders. Moments like that are going to allow students to practice these problem-solving skills that they've been learning.
We want to create additional work-based learning opportunities. We already have tons that we're doing, but we want to do more. You learn best when you are doing things. So by having opportunities to get our kids out in the community, having opportunities for them to do it in school too. Right now up in our business room, we have a Cricut sitting, but we haven't done much with it just because we keep seeing, oh, we could do this, and we can do this, we could do this, but it's just sitting right here on a shelf because we don't have the space to lay out a little area to set it up where we can start screen printing in school. And then it also makes it so we can get items cheaper to our students. You've seen the masks kids are wearing. They're paying someone else for those. Well, we can make them cheaper in the school, and the money's going back to our school, and the students have ownership of it. They like to buy things their friends made. So opportunities to do that in school, also laser cutting, all those fun things. Supply appropriate technology required to best support highly effective instruction. A great example is we have a math department that has found great success using iPads. The iPads are slow and not moving, but we haven't been given answers on how to keep our instruction level where it is without like replacing that iPad. So things like that, when a teacher says, hey, I need something to keep my technology at that level, to show students how to problem solve, to do all this, we just need that technology to help us get there. Lastly, and it's mentioned already, but collaborative space. You problem solve best with others. When I go to a PLC meeting and I can talk about what's going on and we can talk about it, we learn the best then. We want that for our students as well. So we need spaces where we can let the kids go and problem solve it out.
Could I get your names, please? I apologize if you said them when you started, but I didn't hear it.
I didn't. My name is Jared Stoffel. I'm the new school counselor at the high school.
Alyssa McDowell, I teach math, PE, and health.
Thank you.
Okay, Jabin and I'm Shelley, this is Jabin. We're gonna talk to you a little bit about passionate learning, and we love passionate learning. I mean, I told Jabin I'm not jumping on any desks with him today, but don't do it. We have a school that really supports those extracurricular activities. We have a great JAG program where the kids are out there in competitive career development competitions. We have a great FFA program that does the same thing. We have kids that go to pitch competitions, which for a student is a really scary thing to do. For me, it's really scary to watch them do it. But they do a really good job. Some other things, Jabin?
It's just unbelievable. Hey, thanks. Once again, our roadie, killing it tonight. Good job. Is amazing. And Sue and Tony started that program. It started small, and it has gotten big. And Andrew continues to grow that program. And you know, I have students who I thought didn't really like science at all. They get in that science Olympiad, and they get to really show their passion for maybe not biology, but maybe just the physics aspect of it. And maybe they get to do something that they've never done before in Science Olympiad and didn't even know that they really like that. National Honor Society, another unbelievable organization. Many of us in this room have read the essays of students who are trying to get into National Honor Society. They want that. They go for that. That's their dream as a junior and senior, to be a part of that. And then sometimes kids bring to us their own dreams. You all maybe remember when Gabe Case said, hey, I want to be an American Ninja Warrior. Can we start a climbing club here at the high school? And we got that approved, and we did one competition. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we couldn't do last year, but we did one competition, and that was the coolest thing to see those kids who, I mean, I would have never thought to start a climbing club like that, but to see them come to us and say, can we do that? That's to me real passion. We also have an unbelievable, and I think really, really unique situation at Manchester Community Schools where we allow kids to travel. If you're not aware of our German exchange program, I don't think there's anything like this in the world, where kids can go for 3 weeks. They don't have to commit to a whole year as an exchange program. They go for 3 weeks to Germany. They can still be in our classroom, which is awesome, still learn the things that we're doing thanks to technology, but immerse themselves in that culture and then come back and then a few months later host those German students that they stayed with. What an unbelievable program there. Also, I got to throw out the Everglades. When I started the Everglades 22 years ago, I took 6 students. Now we're up to 30, 40 students, and it keeps growing. We just want to continue to have those opportunities for students at Manchester to spark their interest in those world languages, new environments, and you never know what those students are going to come back from. There are students that I've taken on that trip who I would have never imagined, A, would have slept in a tent, or B, wanted to put their hands on a shark. So we want to continue to encourage students to do that sort of thing and become passionate about it.
Another thing that we're really encouraging recently is the third bullet there is the students creating and using their voice. And it's really fun. I think other people have talked about it. When you see students, the light bulb starts to come on and they're thinking, I can do this. And so we have our coffee shop, The Bean. That was a student's voice. She came to me, she said, I want a work-based learning experience, and I've always wanted to kind of do a coffee shop. And I said, all right, sounds good, let's do it. And The Bean, I've got kids that come to me all the time asking to work for nothing. Sure. You know, and that's awesome. I mean, they're taking that initiative. So we're giving them voice. We're giving them the freedom to make products and try to sell those products and fail and win and fail and win. And that is the passionate learner. That is the hands-on, get dirty, get in there. And it takes a lot of resources to do that. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. But we need the space, and we need a coffee shop, and we need places where we can sell these things and put the Cricut out and cut it all out, and Erica's kids and my kids can set out their tons of stuff that they make to sell. And I mean, we're like little Sherpas schlepping that stuff everywhere. So you know, that passion, you can really see it grow in them when you give them that chance. You just got to give them the chance. Oh, also, we try to ignite their passion for their community. Key Club, I get requests all the time. Can you send kids to, right now, Harvest Fest? And I know FFA students help out, they volunteer. Lots of students volunteer everywhere, but that gives them a love for their community. Because Key Club is under Kiwanis, and those Kiwanians, when those Key Club kids come to their dinner, they just love all over them. And they're like royalty when they walk in there. So they walk out with their heads a little bit higher, and having that passion for their community and growing in their community and growing to love their community, we want them to come back. Sure, go, fly, soar, do great things, and then when they're ready to settle down, maybe they'll come back here because they'll remember that community and that love and that passion.
All of us in here who are teachers know that we're not just teaching math, and we're not just teaching social studies, we're not just teaching agriculture, but we're truly cross-curricular educators. And that's one of the fun things about being a teacher is allowing students' passions to come out in our classrooms. And Jared had mentioned the see a problem, solve a problem. And we saw this phrase from Buddy Berry when we went to Eminence, and it has really stuck with me a lot. And I think we're doing that a lot already here, but we can continue to encourage that cross-curricular connection, because that really sparks student learning. I think a lot about how a lot of us in this room could be benefiting from future and advanced manufacturing coming into this community, and all the different connections between math, agriculture, and anatomy. I'm teaching bones right now, and I'm telling the kids, okay, you might be building some screws that are going into this at some point. And that really, I believe, deepens engagement with students. Today we were talking about wind and stuff like this, and Coriolis effect, and happy fall, by the way, today. You know, we got the fall equinox, we were talking about that. And this kid all of a sudden started talking about gravity and quantum physics and astrobiology and stuff that I don't know anything about, and it was so cool, and everybody in the room was like, but that's what that young man was into. And I learned something, and I told him, I don't know what you're talking about, man, but teach me a little bit more, because this is pretty awesome. So we believe that passionate is important, and Amy had mentioned that we at Manchester Community Schools have a lot of passionate teachers, and we just want to continue to share our passion, but also instill passion in our students at Manchester. Thank you.
Good evening. Leslie and Brooke and I have the honor of introducing the literate attribute, which is, of course, right at my alley as an English teacher, but it goes way beyond that. As a Manchester Community Schools graduate, our students will comprehend textual information and obtain real-world literacy skills across multiple areas.
Okay, so adding on to that literate, some things that we would like to see in our classrooms and in our school. We would like to expand the literacy opportunities by adding classes in foreign languages, finance, media, and technology. We believe that employing a reading coach dedicated to helping students, our students, can reach their reading potential. We feel by adding more reading books in different areas in the school, including all classrooms, would help increase literacy skills as well.
Next slide. Thank you. And then lastly, in accordance to literacy, we want to create 2 collaborative spaces. Thank you. One here at the junior high in the central hub area, and the other, I don't even. Yeah, thanks. No problem. Thank you. And the other at the high school in the relocation of the Corner Cafe, otherwise known as the Bean, in order to really cultivate our literacy skills within our students, reading, writing, and speaking within a flexible environment. Thank you.
I'm Tricia Shoemaker, and this is Tiffany Flora, and we have perseverance. When we first got this, perseverance, boy, I just thought coach, maybe because I am a coach, but we expect perseverance with our athletes. First of the year, we give them goals, and they have to train hard, and they have to go through difficult things, injuries, just really working hard, getting in the workout room, and being able to push through to get those goals. And we give them a deadline. Hey, you want to run in sectionals, you need to get to your goals. And if you want to get further, we got to keep going. We got to keep working harder. And so that, to me, is the perseverance. But then I thought, okay, what do we do with it in the classroom? Well, first day they walk in, we say, okay, you're a freshman. Welcome to algebra class. You're going to be learning, your goal is to learn quadratics. Your goal is to learn functions. And you're going to have to work really hard. And you're going to have to follow along. And you're going to have to dig in deep. And you're going to have to work. And at that end of that deadline, you're going to know how to do quadratics. You might still have that funny little song in your head that we teach everybody in their freshman year about quadratics. But hopefully you get to that deadline at the end of your freshman year and you know how to do quadratics. So that's perseverance. And that is going to continue into your adult life. So we're setting them up to get into their adult life. You're always going to have goals when you're an adult. You're always going to have deadlines. There's no job out there that they're not going to have deadlines. And they have to meet those deadlines to keep that job. And so perseverance in the classroom is teaching them the goals and teaching them how to get to those deadlines. The second thing, we have this great new thing, and maybe it's not as new, but I had a child go through it, is with the pathways. The pathways are a wonderful, wonderful way of helping our kids persevere through their high school career. If they want to be a nurse, we've got to give them all the classes they need to persevere through their education through high school, follow their pathways, continue on that pathway, and then they'll be ready for their college career. And then then they can, hop on to their next career that they're going to get into. And so we really have to we have to have those courses for those pathways. We have to have, an internship. I had a kid the other day in study hall. He goes, I think I want to be a teacher. And Miss Leifer was in there with me, and we're like, oh, okay. Well, maybe you could do an internship in the elementary school. He goes, oh, I don't think I would like little kids. And we're like, but you don't know until you go. He goes, I think I want to do high school. Okay, well, let's get you in with a teacher. And he's like, well, And so it's like, we're going to give you the opportunity before you go to college and set yourself up for hopefully not some failure, but set yourself up. I took all these classes. I persevered through it all, but I really don't like to teach. So if we can show them that perseverance before they go off to college, we can get them into some internships. We can get them those AP classes. We can get them those dual credit classes that they will then kind of know before they go to college and spend the next 4 or 8 years doing something. I really kind of like this. I really want to be doing that. So that's also our perseverance that we want to instill in them.
Perseverance. I think over the last 6 months we've found out how good we are at persevering. We want to be better than good. We want to be the best. So with that being said, I will not read all of this, but we are asking for more elective opportunities for our students, more extracurricular activities. We want to use our SRT time better to pour into our students to build those skills. And we want a room where kids can go to regulate during the day, even adults and children co-regulate together. So with all of that being said, we are now we're ready to go into our dreams.
First of all, I think it's important to point out a couple of things. The last time that the high school had a major renovation project was in 1996. That was the last time that the academic areas at the high school were altered. We did a major renovation. Some of you remember it. Some of you remember what it looked like before and what it looked like after. And I know that we were all very thrilled with what was added. And we were very appreciative of it. And it's one of those things where sometimes time gets the better of us. And you start thinking back to when you did something. It's kind of like your own home. When was the last time you replaced your carpet? Or when was the last time you did those kinds of things? And I think sometimes we're reminded of those and we think, gosh, that was a lot longer ago than we thought. We've taken really good care of the building. And we should all be very proud of the fact that we've taken good care of it. But we do see some things in the academic areas that we'd like to expand. And we have to be honest with ourselves. There are a whole lot of people in a lot of different schools around us doing major renovation projects to make themselves look more attractive. And I think we need to acknowledge that from pre-K to 12, we're doing a really nice job in the classroom. And I think the word on the streets is we're doing a really nice job in the classroom. And some of these things are going to enhance the way our school looks and what our school has to offer. And we'd like to do that because we want to stay competitive with those schools around us. One of the things that we have on our list is to improve the kitchen and serving and eating areas. We really put that kind of as a top priority because it enhances all of the kids' experience throughout the day. It's a communal space, it's a place that brings them all together, and right now it's pretty inadequate to serve everyone. We have great participation in our lunch program, and we'd like to be able to do that. That's also an area, though, where we bring communities in. We have, benefit dinners and those kinds of things where the community all comes together. We'd also like to update the carpet, tables, chairs, desks. We'd like that to all reflect 21st century approaches and classroom instruction, and whether that has to do with outlets or hookups or technology, all of those things would be very helpful, and also to add some color to the halls, the rooms, just to make it look more inviting. I know our commons area continues to impress, and I'm glad it does, and we'd just like to enhance that even more. We'd also like to install charging stations because we have lots of devices now from lots of different participants that need those charged, and that would be helpful. And also to expand and relocate the bean and the coffee corner, which we've talked about in the presentation. And we really did spend a lot of time as a committee trying to decide what our dream list could be, but what our realistic dream list could be. I kind of compared it one day to when your parents would ask you to come up with your Christmas list, and you had that big Christmas list that was huge because you had gone through the catalog and checked everything off. This shows how old I am. But then there was also that one list that you wanted to give them because there were certain key elements that you really wanted, and you wanted them to be sure to understand that. And that's kind of what we tried to do. We would like to have that presentation, tiered lecture space, larger than a classroom, smaller than the PAC. It would give us the ability to bring groups together, whether that was 2 or 3 different classes to come together and have that experience, and also guest speakers to make that more conducive for them as well, and also give students an area to present in. To purchase a digital sign for the front of our school. I also, at a marketing meeting, talked about maybe getting one to put out on 13, just to remind people that we're here and what we're doing. I know when I drive through LaVille, at LaVille High School, it's kind of cool because they have students' birthdays on the sign, they have all sorts of things on their sign. And I think too, the sign at the Wabash High School Administrative Office, if you go down 15, they have a lot of propaganda on that sign that reminds you of the things that they're doing, and several of those items on that sign are things we've already been doing. And I think we just need to let people know that. Also to invest long-term in existing programs, FACS, ag, business, career and technical education, and to be really supportive of those programs as they develop. I think a really good program of having a strategic plan is not to just fix things right now, but it's to continue to have a plan of how we're going to do this. If we wait, with our own homes 20 years and then have to do all the repairs and all the fixes and all of those things at one time, that price tag is huge. If we're able to look at it more in incremental kind of ways, I think it gives us an opportunity to take care of things without such a huge price tag. And also to expand the advanced manufacturing facilities. I know that that's a project that's near and dear to a lot of people. It provides great opportunities with the manufacturing industry here in our area, and we'd like our students to be really prepared to step into those roles and to contribute. Also to create flexible collaborative space, allowing students to work together, and giving us the ability to kind of change that up and do some interesting things, and I'll show you a picture here in a second. Creating additional on-site work-based learning opportunities, which we've talked about, and to address safety concerns as we see them come into play. But one of the suggestions too was to use key fob access to secure and limit the building access. We have some lay coaches, we have people who are entering our building for particular periods of time, and key fobs would allow us to turn those on and off, and also to see who's in the building and who's not in the building. Integrating sound in the classrooms to allow for amplification, both in class and if we have to continue to be virtual, it would just make that process easier, and it would also help students with any sort of hearing deficiencies. And also to create a Squire shop. We talked about doing it in the school, but we also talked about taking one of the buildings downtown and creating our own little Squire shop, so when people came through town, they could stop and buy all sorts of hometown goods, and it'd be also a way to connect with other people. We had the opportunity to go to Hamilton Southeastern, and I wanted to show a couple pictures here just of what their collaborative space looked like. If you look at both of these pictures, you're going to see that these tables are actually modular. They're on wheels. They all come to a central hub. The central hubs can be moved, but they are plugged into the floor. They are connected with technology. But if you wanted to have an event that didn't involve tables, that didn't involve technology, all of those can be removed and reconfigured. Here's another configuration of them where they pulled them apart there on the left, and you can see kind of how that could be a very usable space in terms of putting that together. And also there's a couple images here too. I have the opportunity to do some workshops throughout the summer. If you want to flip to the next slide. And these are images from St. Mary's College. I actually had them send them to me. That is a very younger version of me there on the left, but that shows their kind of tiered area. One of the great things about working in this particular area, if you see there in the back, you can kind of see their hub for technology. If you go there to present, there's a central hub. All of the cords are there, all the controls are there. In fact, once you push the button to present, the blinds come down on the windows, the lights dim. It's pretty big league. But what I like about it is the areas there that are in front, those are all rolling chairs. There's space to walk, so if you want to walk through the crowd and assist kids and work with kids, you can do that. I pulled the chair where the young lady's sitting there in the front. I pulled my chair up to those two benches and communicated and worked with students a lot. And it was just a great kind of learning opportunity. They also have this more collaborative space too, and we've talked about in the Commons doing some things with additional seating and giving students opportunities to have places where they can also interact with each other as well. And that was just to give you some visual representations. We have the opportunities to go and see lots of different things, and I think sometimes it's hard to imagine what that could look like if you aren't able to see those sometimes. So that was kind of our purpose. And the very last thing, we just think that investment in our students is an investment in our community. And I realize that we've had some trials and tribulations. We had a difficult referendum that we all went through, and I think it's important that we just remember that making a good investment is really important to maintaining our community.
I love that you brought an army with you to do your presentation. So a shout out to Dave Z for all the formatting of the PowerPoint slides. He did an amazing job there. And all I can say is wow. I'm very impressed by the work that you did. I know it took so much time and effort. Now it's time to give some input. What should I pick up your sticky notes? And we're going to break up into quarter groups. Hopefully you've had a chance to write some things down so it won't take as long for our rotation since our groups won't be so big. But if we can split right down the middle here in this front quarter, we'll go over to the media center. That's where MES's poster board will be, and Mrs. Corris will be there to answer any questions. The back corner will be going to the front lobby, which is where MIS is at. Their poster's there. Please feel free to put any information you feel like we've missed or you would like added. The back corner, go into the boardroom. That is where the junior senior high will be at. Dr. Lippy will be there to answer any questions. And then this front quarter will stay here. We will have other considerations, other things that we may have missed, or thoughts for cost saving or revenue building or anything along those lines that you might want to add. I know it's late. I appreciate the time, so I'm going to have you go quickly, and then hopefully we can get this done in about 30 minutes, because hopefully you've written on your notes. So mark, get set, go. Board, you can just select whichever one of the sections you want to go and start. Because we'll do a rotation, probably about every 5 to 7 minutes. This? Oh, the pen. I couldn't hear what you were saying. means lowest priority. Only the pink dots go on this one in here, which Jeremy has. The rest of them go on the MES, MIS, and junior, senior high school. We're just trying to prioritize and see what everybody thinks is most important first. Green dots, high priority. Yellow dots, medium priority. Orange dots, low priority. Only pink dots in here just to tell us that that's something you think is a great idea and we need to pursue. To leave. I know it's late. So thank you so much. If you want to stay and listen to us discuss bonds, you're welcome to do that as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when they were talking about.
Hey, Steve.
He's just saying add it.
I'm just saying that.
I agree. Did you put it
Hey,
on?
Steve.
I didn't.
Do I
One
say-
other thing I. Took them out of COVID, all the stuff that took over.
No, they're CBS specials.
Do you usually wear it?
Just to read.
All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with our meeting. So the next order of business is the MCS operating bond. Mr. Markham, did you want to say anything?
Okay, at the last board meeting, I gave a presentation and just put down some options, 4 different options that you had, and you have all that information. And in those options, we're doing potentially 2 bonds, one for $335,000 or one for $670,000. We know our enrollment shortfall is around $651,000 this year on where we were projected to be at. Essentially, this bond would help us maintain salaries, benefits, just operational things. We're not looking to go out and buy things with this bond. It's just to give us our cash flow and not deplete our cash flow in our education fund, and give us a little bit of a buffer to hopefully get through this next year. not knowing what could happen in February, if they say that virtual learners are going to go back to 85% funding instead of 100%, and those type of things. So those are just two of the options that are out there. The part of the bond process, there's a couple ways to look at this, and I want to give you the information so that you have it, is if we want to have those monies in hand before the end of December of this year, then we need to move forward with this process this evening. And part of that is the timeline also that you should have that I sent to you. Because if we take the monies by the end of this year, then it will affect the tax rate, and that tax rate will be affected on the 2021 budget that we've prepared at this point. So for that bonded money to come to us by the end of the year, the tax rate will have to be affected for 2021, okay? If we choose not to move forward with a bond this evening, our timeline is probably pretty much too tight to get that done, to delay it another week or 2 weeks for all the advertising and everything that would have to be done. This is similar to what we went through with the roof project essentially a year ago. The other option you would have to consider is we could do this bond in the spring, March, April, May. It would not affect the tax rate until 2022. Okay, we could have the monies in the spring, but it would not affect the tax rate until 2022, and it will affect the tax rate. Taxes will go up with this bond. The question marks there are, we will pay more in interest because we would not begin paying on that bond until June of 2022. So we would have the monies in May of 21, so essentially you've got 15 months worth of interest, where if we do it now, let's say the bond closes the end of November or 1st of December, we would start paying on that bond in June of 21, so you really only have 8 or 9 months of interest. So you're extending your interest if you wait till the spring, and then who knows what rates will be at that time. Right now they're 1% to 2%, they're saying, on those bonds. Depending what will happen with legislators and funding from the state with the new biennium, the bond rates, a lot of schools may be trying to go after bonds then, and then the rates may go up. So those are all things to consider with this process. Again, we just feel we need to do something to put ourselves in a position that we do not lose our cash flow out of our education fund with losing $650-some thousand on what we thought we might have this next year based on enrollment.
All right, so basically, board, if we want to move forward, then we need a motion to move forward with the operating bond. And if we don't want to move forward, then we do nothing. And that then will, if I understand you right, make it so that our cash flow is not there.
We would definitely need to reconsider this in the spring if we chose not to do the bond this evening. We would probably have to look at it. What this will also do is it'll give us some time to maybe make some more savings through attrition with staff and that way. And as we heard more about MIS, what would we want to do with that facility and those type of things. So there's a lot of things at play, obviously, and those are just all things that I wanted to make sure you were all aware of as we look at this and have the information.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit to the tax caps, Jeremy?
Yeah, based on the information that we have got through the Wabash auditors and county, and we know that depending on what the payoff amount or the payoff years that we would select will affect the tax rate at different amounts, and these are rough amounts again that Baker Tilly put together. So for example, if we did the $670,000 bond with a 2-year payoff, we're looking at about an 8-cent tax rate increase. If we did the 3-year, you're looking at a 5-cent increase. I think right now, as we looked at our taxable in the Manchester Community School Corporation, those that pay taxes, I've got that number here. Excuse me. There's about 6,703 individuals that are billed taxes. Of those, 776 are at the tax cap, so that's about an 11% of our taxable population that's at the tax cap right now. Can't really guesstimate on how many more that may affect with this bond. I know that we're in comparison with MSD, they're at around 11% right now, and I know Wabash City, I believe, is at like 53% with tax caps, but they're in a different situation with that as well. So we have pretty low tax caps for our district with schools our size, just talking with Baker Tilly. So, I mean, there'll be some that may hit the tax cap with this bond, but I don't think it's an overwhelming majority by any means.
And just to be clear, we hit tax caps every year.
Yeah, there are those that have that hit the tax cap every year. I think our circuit breaker loss a year ago was about 63,000, and I think this next year is like 79,000 total. Okay. So which is relatively low in comparison.
So are you talking about the property tax cap circuit breakers,
Yeah.
1% for residential, 2% for
Yeah, all those
farmers?
tax caps. Yeah, that would put all those numbers in there, and so we're at about 11% of our taxable entities that are at that cap.
So if 11%, I heard a different number, but for the sake of conversation,
sure.
If that many are already at the tax cap and there's another 11 to 17% that are this far away, and say we raise taxes $120 on a $150,000 home, just using an example, sure. And they're $20 away from their cap, what happens to that other $100? We go light, right?
Those monies are not like that tax is not redistributed to another taxpayer. Those are just monies that will not come back to the school system for a number of years potentially.
So in other words, we could pay Baker Tilly to do a $670,000 bond, and if there's a whole bunch of people that are this far in town, is the information I have, there's a whole bunch of people that are this close. If this tax increase puts them over, then we wouldn't get $670,000, even though we paid Baker Tilly to prepare a bond for that. We could get a significant amount less. Is that correct?
No, we would still get that bond money, but the amount that we would be able to claim potentially could go down in the next budget year.
So in other words, it would take us longer. We could calculate this payoff at 16 cents for 1 year, but if everybody's up against the tax cap, instead of paying it off in 1 year, it might take us 3.
Right, and we can select the repayment plan that we want with that from 1 to 3 years. So if the 670,000 is what we want to go after, but instead of going an 8-cent tax impact, we want to go with a 5-cent, then it's a 3-year payoff instead of a 2-year. So we just have to budget that in our next 3 years in our debt service.
Okay, I'm still not understanding. If there's a property tax cap for 1% for residential, 2% for farms, and 3% for businesses, if they hit that cap and they don't have to pay anymore, where's our money coming from?
It'll still come through the debt service. I guess I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Again, I'm still not understanding. Like me, my cap is $1,920 and I pay $900. So we could sit here and raise my taxes $1,000 till I hit that cap. Once I hit that cap, I don't pay anymore. So we're talking about raising everybody's taxes to do this.
Right.
But if 25% of our tax base hits the cap and they don't have to pay that extra money, where does our money come from? Are we just extending our pay because we're not getting as much? Or is the bond gonna be less, is my question.
No, your bond will be there. It'll just be, we'll pay those over, if it's a 2-year or a 3-year, those payments are divided out. So you're still gonna be able to recoup those tax monies to help pay that off in your debt service. They'll still pay up to their
Would it take longer,
cap.
though, is the question, I think?
What's that?
Would it take longer? Like, let's say we did a 2-year, everybody hits the tax cap, so we're not bringing that money in that we thought we were going to, right?
Right, all of it. And we would have to possibly adjust other things or payments within our debt service. But in this scenario, according to what Baker Tilly would say, this amount is a small enough amount that it shouldn't affect very many people to hit their tax cap. So it may hit like 50 more people. But because 2 years ago, I think the number of people that hit the tax cap were 755, and then this last year was 776. So like 20 more people hit that cap.
So
we're still able to pay within our
If we
debt
said we
service.
were gonna pay it off in 2 years, we still have to pay it off in 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's
So
how we
just
would
have to
budget
come
it
up with
out.
that money somewhere else, yeah.
Okay, I think, for me, I'd like to make the motion that we go ahead and do the 600 and, is it 670, is that what it is?
It would, yeah, 670.
670. I think the only thing I'd like to ask is the administration to maybe give us kind of just a summary of where the monies will be going, just so we have a good idea, so that we're aware.
Sure. I mean, just to give you one idea or a little bit, right now, we would receive about $8,400,000 in tuition monies based on our enrollment today. And what we will spend in salaries and benefits will be $8.1 million just in the education fund this next year. So we're $200,000 to $300,000 away from expending all of the tuition dollars just in salary and benefits on our education side based on the 21 budget. So, I mean, it really squeezes those education dollars, and then eventually it could affect our operations because we transfer money from the education fund to the operations fund to help pay central office utilities, all those things. So we would have to reduce the amount we're transferring to cover those costs as well. So again, it just provides some buffer till we can figure out enrollment, and is it going to go up? Is this where we're going to be at for the next few years? I mean, those are all the unknowns.
At the last meeting, you said that we didn't have to do this now. And I don't understand the hurry. If, in a conversation with Dr. Carmel, she says we have enough money to get to July. We have a presidential election coming in November. We got a board election here in this community. We may not have the same governor who's made all kinds of promises about not cutting education. Baker Tilly doesn't work for free. I don't understand why we can't wait until after the November election and then sit down and start making a plan and do this bond in February. We still get the money, and we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and everybody's been hit hard, and there's people out there struggling to put groceries on their tables. And I support education, and I think we need to do a bond. I think everybody here thinks that we need to do a bond. I don't get the hurry, because what happens if we get a different Senate and House in Indianapolis and they decide to cut school funding to $5,500 a student? We're going to be right back to Baker Tilly trying to borrow money again and for operations, and I guess that's not legal anymore, and there's no election in 2021. So if we wanted to do a referendum, we would have to pay for it. I just feel like we should wait till January and do this and find out who the governor's going to be, if the House and Senate's going to change, if they're going to cut school funding. We're getting a new appointed school superintendent. There's just a lot of unknowns here to go out and do this right now. And like I said, we got money to get through until July. You know, I don't think we need to wait till April or May to do this. I mean, if we start making a plan right after the election, I mean, we did this when Mr. Pettibone quit. As soon as the election's over, we call in the new elected board members, whoever they are, and sit down and start having a conversation. And in January, we plan this, and as soon as we get our adjustment from the state in February, we know how much money we need, and we go after it. But I just, you know, and here's the other thing, the 2021-22 tax year, the farmers have suffered through a month of drought here. They get hit the hardest. You know, most of them are still quite a ways away from the property tax cap. So if we wait till 21 and put this bond in place, they don't have to pay it until 22. You know, I mean, if you're farming 100 acres, it's one thing, but if you're farming 1,000 acres, that's a pretty big hit when prices are already dropping and you don't know what you know, the harvest hasn't even started. I've heard average to poor for predictions, so I just think the board needs to just.
Well, and then you got to look at the risk of the, you know, the financial environment in the future too. So did Ice Miller, did they have any feel for, did they give you any feel for the interest?
Baker Tilly right now, they said bonds are working usually 1% to 2% right now. But that's what they said, the unknown. If you wait till the spring, if things don't improve and funding isn't adjusted in favorably of schools, that maybe a lot of schools will go after bonds then, and that could drive rates up higher. So, but again, that's just speculation on their part, that the rates could go higher. But that, I mean, that's all they're basing it off of.
Then I'm going to ask really specific questions, may get me in trouble, I don't really care. If you quit messing with the volume and blowing in my ears out, I will. Is it set now? So I want a specific question to the administration. Is a teacher raise dependent on doing this bond currently?
Well, we haven't negotiated yet, but if we have expenses that are more than our revenue, the odds of us doing a teacher raise is quite slim. Yeah, just being honest. And I think they realize that as well, because it is now a legal issue.
Well, I'm looking at this holistically,
Okay,
because
hey,
the last thing I want to play with is our.
So we just have this motion on the table from 5 minutes ago. So let's do them, is there a second? Because if there's not a second, then we wouldn't have discussion, but if there is a second, we'd have discussion. So Mr. Flack made a motion to approve the operating bond for $670,000. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second, just to keep the discussion going.
All right, so there's a second. Mr. Hensley, did you have a question?
Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay.
I don't know why someone would interrupt me when you guys have talked for about 10 or 15 minutes about this, you know?
I was trying to actually second it just to keep for a point of order, but I didn't have the opportunity. I just wanted to keep the point of order.
You did the right thing, Ruth. But you know, specifically to that point, the last thing we need to do is mess with the best thing we got going in the school corporation, and that's our instruction level. So just a voice there. Jeremy, Dr. Grimeau, if you were to be able to change legislation in any way of how we fund schools, do you have any idea how that legislation would change?
Make it equitable, but how we get there, I don't know.
So as a professional, as both of you as professionals of the school corporation, do you feel that funding is equitable in the state of Indiana?
I do not.
Thank you. So, and Governor Holtman probably, you know, I'm probably 100% certain he'll be our governor next year, and I do feel he's a huge proponent for education, you know, so but there is you know, within the legislative body, there, you know, people have different views on things, so. My personal opinion is the risk isn't that great to wait on this, you know, so. And thank you for allowing me to finish.
Jeremy, is there a reason that you keep saying spring? Is there a reason we can't do it in January or February? Once?
No, I mean, we can do it at any point in the next year. Again, it's just going back, how much more extra and interest do you want to pay on that? Because, again, if we take it in January, then that's just compounding a couple more months' interest onto that bond that you're going to have to pay back. So,
But I mean, at 1 or 2%, that's not that much money, right?
yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's
Talking a few $1,000s, like.
yeah, it's probably, yeah, if it stays at 1 or 2%,
Right.
yeah, ideally. So that's all that Baker Tilly said, that they just wanted to make sure we understood that and that you guys understood that as
Yeah.
well, that there'll be just more interest because we won't start payments till 2022. So
Did you say we could only go to 3 years, or could we make it 5 years? Is there some reason 3 years is the max?
we
or-
could go out farther. A lot of times they don't recommend to do that with a smaller amount of money. I mean, it's a large amount of money, obviously, but in other projects and bonds, it's a small amount. So the more, and the other side of this is if we can pay, if we would do this bond, we could pay this bond off. The roof bond would be done in 2 years. A lot of our debt falls off in 23 and gives us a lot more debt capacity where we could keep the tax rate more level and then have monies to be able to do many of the things that were discussed this evening by our principals in their buildings, and give us some capability and capacity in our debt service to take on a larger amount of money, but then still at least keep the tax rate more level and lower than where we would be at.
And that's kind of my thoughts when I look at this slide from,
Yes.
you know, from a couple meetings ago. I mean, I equate this to our tax rate, basically.
Yes.
So if we do it now, we're gonna jump this where it's already high, jump this where it's already high, and then it just drops off
Yes.
quite drastically. But, you know, if we were to wait till next year, we push it back, so we're only in 22.
Yeah.
If we make this, instead of 3 years, 5 years, you know, the tax increase would go down, where less people are gonna hit that max, and the effect on the taxpayers is minimized. And once you know, you're here, you go out a couple years, well, I mean, it's even with this, it's gonna be a tax decrease going forward. So, I mean, I guess when I look at it, I'm just saying, I would like to minimize the effect on the taxpayer. And to me, the way to do that would be wait till spring and increase the time here. And again, since the interest rate is so low, I realize you're gonna pay more interest extending it out, but you know, you're talking $3,000 a year or something, $4,000 maybe. I don't think it's, you know, you're not just tossing money away. And I think the benefits of not hitting people as hard all at once, it's worth it to me.
So what would your thoughts be on doing it tonight and extending it out 5 years?
Well, again, I mean, to me, you push it back to next year, then nobody feels the effects till here, as opposed to here. So you have 1 year where people are hit with a higher tax rate, and then beyond that, it's coming down anyways. So the effect is only 1 year by waiting till spring.
So, are you finished? Okay. So I appreciate, Raju, what you said, and I think, you know, that's certainly an option I think we should consider. I want to go back to what Mike said too, though, is I think our most valuable asset we put at risk a bit. If we, from what was said tonight, we would, I mean, it would really shut down some negotiations with the MTA. You know, the fact that we said we're going to I mean, Dave, you said we're going to get a bond. Everybody here is in agreement of getting a bond. You know, we are at a little bit of a risk if, you know, if interest rates do go up to 4 or 5% after the election. I don't know, and I don't think any of us know that. It is a little bit of a risk where we could lock it in right now at 1%. I would say this also, and I've spoken with Teresa about this and Ruth about it, and I do think as we look into our 5-year plan, we saw some great things tonight and some big dreams. And I think, you know, we need to put together, probably sooner than later, a group of, obviously you guys, a few principals, some MTAs, some other teachers, some community folks, and really start looking at our financial plan around what we saw tonight and our strategic plan as we get a better direction, as we look at the green dots and everything like that, so that and then it's not all on you guys either. It kind of protects you. It's a committee of all key stakeholders represented, and I think that would go a long way of building some trust with the community as we go out, and if we look at some of these projects where we have to ask for additional money in the next whatever years that is, I think it would be a great way to do that. And I'd be in favor of giving us that cushion right now, knowing that we're going to you know, be really wise in our strategic plan, and I have no doubt that we will be, but just I think it's a great opportunity to bring everybody together in doing this and get us through this year. We're obviously going to have to behave like a district that has 1,350 students instead of 1,600. I mean, there's lots of hard choices, things we're going to have to make. And I don't think that should all be on you. I think there should be buy-in from a larger group as we look at this. But this money gives us a little flexibility to get to that point.
Jeremy, what's Baker Tilly charged to do a bond?
They did, I think it was $18,000 last year when we did the roof. And then Ice Miller obviously would have some money in it too, as the bond counsel, as you have to have one of those. So we're probably looking at about $30,000 for their two services combined.
Okay, so being devil's advocate, if we do this right now and we have another upset after the first of the year and we lose another 50 kids or another 100 kids, we're right back to Baker Tilly again, or facing the word that was mentioned in the last meeting, consolidation. You know, with all the unknowns, I just can't stress enough, and taking the community into, I think we're making a mistake doing this right now. You know, to give all the teachers a raise is $140,000, and then the other staff is $60,000, so that's $200,000. We got $355,000 in a rainy day fund, so we can go into negotiations as long as this board makes a resolution that we're going to pass a bond after the first of the year. We save all that money to Baker Tilly and to Ice Miller if we wait till after January. We can plan and we can be ready to go, and we can pull the trigger right after January, and that saves all the farmers from having to pay this tax increase, and all the homeowners that aren't up against their cap from having to pay this increase next year. Maybe by then COVID's over, you know. And I tell you what, it really upsets me is when I look at the plan, I didn't see anything in there about how we're going to grow the savings or in the proposed budget. How, you know, we've been at 355,000. You know, skip the community foundation data that was passed out a year ago. Looking at our own numbers, we've had declining enrollment for 5 years and we haven't done anything. We can't do status quo. You know, I'll bet anybody in this room $100 that we end up at $1,250 before we ever end up at $1,600 or 1,600 students. You know, that's a great goal. That's a lofty goal. We got great people, and I don't want to lose any of them. But this just feels like a panic move to me, and I just think with everything that's going to go on in November, that we're you know, we're being penny wise and pound foolish. You know, like I said, all it takes is a resolution from this board that we're gonna pass an operating bond and recoup the money that we spent on, out of operating for capital projects, and let's fix it after the first of the year. Let's be fair to the taxpayers and the community, the teachers, the students, and the staff. I support education, but this, you know, this just don't feel right.
Just a question, Dave. So if you were to delay it, and let's say we lose another 50 kids or 100 kids, if I understand it correctly, we can't get a bond over 670 right now, is that correct?
No, we could, our bond capacity is like 1.6 million right now, based on where we're at. So we could, I mean, if you decide to wait, we would want to wait until after February to do the bonds till we knew the new count date. If the count date still holds true in February and the legislators decide, are they still going to fund virtual learners at 100%? Or are they going to change it and go back to 85%? You know, those type of things. So, I mean, my recommendation would be if you choose not to pass the bond this evening, we'll get to where we need to get to in the spring, but we would want to do it after the count day and when we have a little more info if you're going to wait. So I'm just saying if you're going to do it now, we need to do it because of the timeline and the crunch on advertising and things.
I just want clarification. Your recommendation is to do a bond now, correct? That's the recommendation.
My
That's your
recommendation
preference?
would be to do 670,000, yeah.
Now.
tonight,
And would you recommend that we use a rainy day fund to pay salary, to negotiate an increase?
It would not be my recommendation. That's just a philosophy thing for me. I just think, I look at that as a savings account, and you try not to spend that if you don't have to. But just knowing that it's going to be hard to put that money back in there at some point, just where we're at right now. But doesn't mean we can't. Again, that's philosophical, and that's my philosophy.
So I really appreciate the thoughts about how it's affecting the community. And I consider that we're a board for Manchester Community Schools, so a school board. So I'm just wondering, if we don't pass the bond now, does that have some negative effects or negative decisions that you'll have to make starting in January or February? And I understand that we could wait. I guess what I'm really asking is, should we wait? And if I look at it from the perspective of taxpayers and what Mr. Shaw was saying, I can understand that, but I really want to look at it as a perspective of somebody who's making decisions in the best interest of the school. So would you recommend waiting in the best interest of the school?
Can I clarify one thing before we move forward?
Oh, why?
Because well, your comment just now kind of clouded what I was saying. What I was saying is if we wait, my recommendation or my suggestion was to use rainy day funds only if we postpone the bond till after January, and then that money would be put back out of the bond money.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I heard your
wanted to clarify
recommendation
that.
to use the rainy day fund, which is very, just so we're clear, it's a very small rainy day fund.
I get it.
So if anything happens, that's like our emergency fund. So I'm just wondering, but again, my question is from the perspective of a school, does it put us, are there negative ramifications for waiting?
I don't know that there's negative ramifications, no. I wouldn't go that far at this point. The negative ramification would be if you get to the spring and you choose not to do a bond. At that point, then we'll be barely scraping by at that point. So I guess the point of it is if we don't do the bond now, but we can do one in the spring to protect ourselves, then there's no negative ramification by not doing one right now, if I understand what you're asking me.
Well, then I guess I'm curious why you're recommending for it now.
Because I'm just making a recommendation.
Okay.
Being proactive, right? So,
Is there anything illegal if we decided to do the bond after the first of the year for taking that rainy day money out to do negotiations and take care of payroll now and put the money back out of the bond? Can we do that?
You could do that as a board. You would just create a resolution that you want to use $200,000 of rainy day fund for raises. That's what we would do, if that's what you chose to do as a board. And then, yeah, part of the bond money could go back in to replenish that if that's was the desires of the board.
Would that still give us enough breathing room with our investment into human capital to get through till July?
I would say more like June, yeah.
So currently, do we know where we need to spend that money? Because I guess that's my biggest problem right now.
The money for the bond?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's salaries and benefits.
Okay, so in here, there's a $650 bond, or $1,000 and $350.
Yeah, $335.
Do we pay these people twice?
No, we just gave you an option to do a lower amount of a bond.
You're not thinking in the future another one, like Dave's alluding to.
I can't say that we wouldn't have to. Again, we just don't know until we get to the spring and enrollment and all those things.
So the $650, is that limited because of the way we're doing this?
No, we could do more. We were just trying to do what we felt was making up for the lost enrollment dollars at this point, and not going above and beyond that, because obviously the more higher you go, the more the tax rate goes up too. So trying to balance that the best way we can.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have enough that we spend out of operating capital to replace debt service money? I mean, how much did you guys identify?
You mean take operations money? And
I thought the whole thing was we couldn't do an operating bond, that we had to go back and recoup money that we spent out of operating that could have been debt service.
Yeah.
Do we have a cap number there that we've identified?
We have identified around $900,000 of old capital that we've submitted to them that they felt they could utilize. Not that we have to use all of that. That's why we're just saying the 670 at this point. But we have old capital that totaled that amount that could be taken as part of that.
So what would you think about delaying this and putting a committee together to start right-sizing this district that's been shrinking for the last 10 years? Dr. Carmel or Jeremy?
I mean, everything's on the table at this point. I just need to know if you want to proceed with a bond this evening, essentially, for this year to be taken out to affect the tax rate in 21. So, again, if we don't do it now, we're going to have to come back to it in the spring for sure and consider it again. I don't know what the right or the wrong is. I'm just giving you all the options to the best of my ability, and hopefully you guys make the best decision that you think's in your best interest. And I'm not trying to pawn that on anyone either. I mean, we're very conscious of the tax rate and what we're doing as well, and so we're trying to balance that the best we can.
Right, and I appreciate your honesty.
You. So we've had a motion on the table. It's been 30 minutes, and I just want to know from the board, I am very happy to continue the discussion. I'm asking from the board what the wishes are. Are you ready to vote, or do you have more conversation? So
I'm ready,
I need to
I'm ready to vote. I mean, we've had 2 weeks to talk about this, so let's vote.
Other people? So 2 people are ready to vote? More conversation, or are you ready to vote? Then I'll err on the side of...
I'm ready to vote. If I'm the second person, that'll make 3, so.
I'm ready, yes.
You ready to vote?
Yeah.
Right. There's a motion on the table from Mr. Flack to approve the $670 bond, operating bond, and a second from Mr. Esposette. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 4-3. Thank you. We are now at the part of hearing from the patrons. We just ask, since there's been lots of opportunity to comment on the strategic plan, that maybe those comments could be limited, but if there's other comments, And obviously, we don't stop anybody from commenting. So any other comments, hearing from those who are here? All right. Superintendent comments?
I would just reiterate how wonderful the presentations were tonight, and just appreciate so much the time and effort you put into it. Thank you. I don't want to keep you, but I'm just really, really proud of the work that you did.
School board comments?
I would just like to commend all the staff on your strategic plan this evening. It was very well put together. I liked a lot of the ideas, and wish you lots of success, because I won't be around to implement. But thank you.
I'd like to sentiment pretty much the same thing. One thing I heard that was really key tonight was spending in the classroom, and I think that's huge. I'd also like to apologize to you, Ruth. I kind of snapped on you there, and I apologize. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I want to go home. So
Yeah, thank you. We're all doing the best we can. All right, then, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I guess